Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku was the heart of Hero Class 1 Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Memoryhead from AO3. So let's start the video. Midoriya. Welcome to UA. Hero Class 1 will be staying in the 𝗕𝗁𝐼𝐧𝐿 dorm building, which is on the other end of the main campus. The quickest route is through the main campus, though you may want to take the scenic route around it. You're one of the last students to arrive, actually. Your dorm room and other information will be on the signboard in the main lobby. On behalf of UA, welcome to your Hero Academia. Thank you ectoplasm-sensei. Midoriya squeaked. And may I have an autograph? Walking through the gargantuan UA gate and tucking away a notebook one autograph heavier, Midoriya pondered everything that had led up to this momentous day. Everything's gone by so fast since that sludge villain. It's been like a year. Then training with all might, one for all, my crazy dream of being a hero finally became possible. The entrance exam, that 0-pointer, that cute girl, oh god, we're in the same class, aren't we? How am I gonna... Oh my god, is that present Mike? Knocked out of his own head by the sight of... Oh, it's just some student with tall hair. Midoriya went over his itinerary once again. Hero Class 1, it read. It wouldn't be impossible for it to be a misprint, but All Might had said the same thing on the hologram disc that came in the mail. Young Midoriya. Welcome Hero Class 1 of your Hero Academia. So it couldn't have been a misprint. But usually UA had two hero classes, a 1A and 1B. All the yearbooks and information online suggested the same thing, two hero classes. So why is it just called Class 1? He continued to muse. Did they not have enough students make the cut? Turning the corner and arriving at the dorm buildings, he quickly located the 𝗕𝗁𝐼𝐧𝐿, a 6-story apartment with a banner above the door, Welcome to UA Hero Class 1, and entered through the front door. A few students milled about in the common area, all dressed in the same UA uniform he wore, a masked boy with many arms speaking to a blonde girl with tall, sharp horns atop her head, two dark-haired girls with no visible mutations lounging on the sofa, and, "Oh, it's the loud guy from the exam," said tall boy immediately turned upon his entry and marched over to face him. Midoriya, he greeted, arms chopping furiously. Allow me to apologize for my grievous misjudgment during the entrance exam. I had thought you a mere ruffian looking to get his kicks from harassing other test takers when in fact you embodied a spirit more heroic than my own. With that he entered 90-degree bow so stiff Midoriya could almost hear it creaking. My most sincere apologies. My name is 𝗳𝗏𝗏 from Semi-Private Academy. Midoriya took his offered hand and gave it a weak shake. Oh, there's no need for that. He gave a nervous smile to 𝗳𝗏, then turned to the other four who were now watching, amused. I am Midoriya Izuku, just from around here. Pleased to make your acquaintance. The dorm information and everything else is located on the bulletin board just outside of the stairwell. The engine-legged boy chopped, then made to the couches with the two dark-haired girls. Where is everyone? Midoriya wondered aloud, following. Best to make a good first impression with everyone, the four others turned to him. The first, distinguished sitting straight in a regal fashion and with a high, jagged ponytail, gave him a warm smile. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗵𝗲. It's a pleasure to meet you. He shook her hand and offered it to the other girl, Midoriya Izuku. And you are? The other girl had simple, shoulder-length black hair and a face eerily similar to that nice girl, minus the pink cheeks. Midoriya noted. She took the hand, but instead of shaking it just held it uncomfortably in her hand for a moment. 𝗕𝗁𝙢𝙢𝗢, she mumbled unemotively. After a few awkward moments where she didn't elaborate, he retracted his hand from hers. Turning to the many-armed boy, 6 arms, flesh-like webbing in between, full dexterity? Likely increased strength, no explanation for the webbing tentacles? Regeneration? Mouth covered in a mask, likely mutated as well though 𝗓𝗏𝗏 𝗵𝘃𝗲. Shaked out of his reverie, Midoriya turned to look up at the heteromorph before him. Oh, sorry Midoriya. I'm Midoriya. I tend to get carried away when I see new quirks, sorry. I didn't mean to creep you out or anything. He received a firm handshake in response. It's fine. Glad you think my quirk is cool. Right? Some jerk tricked me into say he looked like a big and ugly octopus. I'm Pony. Pony 𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗵, but just call me Pony. I am from America. The horned blonde chirped, shaking Midoriya's hand vigorously. I like to meet you, Izuku. Your hair looks like grass. Thanks, I get that a lot, he replied. Scanning the horns atop her head, he couldn't help himself. Animal type heteromorph, or heavy animal type mutations. Quirk is most likely centered around the horns. They look sharp. Can they grow? Possibility of imitating A-rank villain Moonfish apprehended by All Might 7 years ago? Maybe they can detach full control or limited. Do they regrow or reattach? Whoa, man. Slow down, I don't understand you. Not my first language. Midoriya blushed. Sorry. She smiled in response, bouncing on her hooves. It is fine. You see nice, better than that bastard blondie who got here earlier. He was calling me horseface. Yeah, 𝗬𝗁𝗂𝗁, he likes his nicknames. It's nice to meet a classmate who shares an appreciation for the analytical side of heroics, 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪 chimed in. I am dual-tracking myself, albeit mainly to aid in my quirk for heroics. Unfortunately, the only other analytical mind I've talked to otherwise is in 𝗕𝗁𝙢, who leaves quite a distasteful impression. Midoriya sighed at that. Guess maybe this place won't be different to 𝗓𝗪𝗓? Still, at least I've met a few friendly people. Recalling the Ravenette's words, he perked up again. What are the details of your quirk exactly? Folding her arms on her lap, she explained. My quirk, creation, allows me to create any non-living thing from the lipids in my body as long as I understand its exact composition. That's incredible. And it's so versatile. You could do anything. It's an almost limitless quirk, especially with the right support items to ensure a steady stream of lipids. You must have studied so much to unlock its full potential. You're going to be an amazing hero. Support items on the fly, no need to carry extra medical supplies, replenish stocks, make any weaponry or equipment to counter any quirk, shields. Can you create plasmas or energy? The possibilities are endless. The heiress blushed. I'm glad you appreciate the hard work I put into it. My parents, though supportive, have undoubtedly been hesitant to let the next heir of the 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪 Corporation into the field of heroics. I suspect that is why they are trying for another child, even if the mortality rates have consistently lowered for the last decade. Midoriya nodded. Yeah, my mom's pretty worried about me being a hero as well, but she understands that I have to do this. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪 smiled in understanding. I think we're all here for the same reason, in a way. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗁 affirmed. There was an announcement a while before you arrived that the dorm mother would gather everyone before the proper orientation session once everyone got here. Shuji stated, walking over to the trio with 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗃 in tow. Your furniture should all be in your dorm room, so you might want to set it all up before that happens. Got it. Thanks, Shuji-kun. With that, Midoriya left the others to the stairs. Pinned up to a corkboard was a simple list of names and dorm numbers. Each of the 5 floors above ground level was divvied up into 8 dorms, 4 for the girls and 4 for the boys. He balked. That's 40 students? Aren't the dorms per class? Don't tell me, there's just one class of 40? It's unheard of in the history of UA. Tracing down further, he arrived at his own floor, the 3rd. My neighbors are Yuga Aoyama, Tokoyami Fumikiage, and Shoda Nirenjiki. On the girls' side, Jirkyuka, Ajuitu, Toga Himiko, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 Pony. Walking up the stairs, which were oddly long and flat, probably to accommodate for heteromorphic quirks with more divergent bodily traits, he noticed nobody was milling about, save for the faint sounds of movement and furniture scraping the floor behind closed doors. Reaching the 3rd dorm numbered 3 to 4 and closest to the stairwell, Midoriya scanned his UA ID. Within was a fairly plain room, drapes closed on the balcony, and with his boxed goods in the center of the room and furniture placed against the walls. The greenette put his hands on his hips. Time to get to work. An hour later, and with every All Might poster pasted up on the walls, the curtains replaced with All Might's signature red, yellow, and blue, and every rare All Might figure that would fit in the moving box dusted off and placed in their rightful order in the cabinet. Midoriya received a text, "Please make your way down to the main lobby for the orientation to begin. Plus Ultra." As he closed the door, the All Might fan was greeted by a high voice with a French accent. "Ah, my fellow classmate. It is not often one gets to greet a first compatriot as brilliant and dazzling as moi, non?" The blonde boy Yuga, if memory served, posed as Sparkles, appeared spontaneously around him. Is that his quirk? Something light-based, light refraction maybe? Causing the light to bounce off the air around him has a whole host of applications. Interrupting his mumbling, the Frenchman lifted a hand into the air and placed another on his chest, gazing wistfully out of the window across them. "Non. Merely my twinkle, my dear green friend. My quirk is as radiant as I, as you shall see later. But we must make our way downstairs, so I can spread my shine far and wide." The eccentric blonde continued to ramble as he walked, occasionally posing. Following his blonde classmate downstairs as two others joined them, a tall, vine-haired girl striding purposefully. Thorns? Retractable? Likely fully controllable. Can she create other plant life? How long does their reach extend? And a taller boy with pitch-black skin following along with his lands in his pockets, likely some sort of shadow or darkness-related power, inducing blindness by absorbing light, maybe? Black hole-related, like 13? Midoriya stopped in his tracks at the sight of an absolutely packed common area. Lounging across the tables and chairs, sitting the allotted sofas and on top of them, were about 30 other students. Immediately, he regretted his decision to leave his notebooks behind to make a good first impression. Until furred fox heteromorph about twice his height, a short redhead with pigtails barely half his height, a boy with a 2D face that looked like a speech bubble, a bug heteromorph with blades near his mouth, an excitable-looking girl with pink dreadlocks and what looked like mechanical goggles, Kacchin, and the nice girl. Immediately Midoriya walked over to her, and as she turned her face brightened. "Cute. W, not the time. It's you, from the entrance exam," she exclaimed. "The plain-faced boy who saved me." Chuckling nervously, a hand carding through his verdant curls, he offered a hand. "Why, yeah, that's me. I'm Midoriya. Do you know who our dorm mother's gonna be?" Giggling, she took it and shook it. "Nope, but I hope it's 13. She's my favorite and she teaches here. Isn't that amazing? I'm 𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 girl asked. Amphibian heteromorph, will she be an aquatic specialist? Likely very agile, frog mutations, can she use camouflage or poison? You're muttering, Kero. Slamming his mouth shut, he stammered, trying to think of an apology. It's fine, just odd, Kero. I can be blunt. It's quite improper for staff to be late, and it is already a minute past the scheduled meetup time. Ida announced, coming up from behind, hands chopping away. Perhaps we should call our dorm mother. Does anyone have her number? Oh, you wish you had my number. A lecherous voice announced from the door, and 40 heads swiveled to see a statuesque Ravenet in an iconic dominatrix outfit. I'm your dorm mother. Midnight, or Kiyama-sensei if you're into that. Or, you can call me mommy. Okay. The quiet girl from before, Kodai, Midoriya's memory supplied, stated monotonously. Ida sputtered, the vine-haired girl looked taken aback, muttering what sounded like prayers under her breath, and almost everyone in the room was blushing. Midoriya could feel the heat spreading from his cheeks to his ears. Ah, the vibrancy of youth. I love to see a new flock of spring chickens come to roost, and there's more of you than ever. Shuji raised one of his many hands from the back. Is there a reason why there's 40 of us? I was under the impression that UA typically has 2 hero classes of 20. Right you are, she answered, cocking a hand on her hip. She licked her lips. But I can more than handle all of you. The reason is simple. Effective this morning, all 39 of you are now members of UA's Hero Class 1. Our dean has been wanting to try this sort of experiment for a while now. UA is known for its unconventional teaching methods, as I'm sure many of you researched when choosing to study here, And this year we're trying a larger cohort. It'll take some getting used to, but I'm glad it turned out this way, she privately mused. Can't believe 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 actually agreed to this, even if it meant he could finally implement those changes he wanted to make to the entrance exam. Well, he'll probably complain about it for ages later anyhow. Wait, 39? A brunette boy near the back of the crowd asked. At that very moment, the doors slammed open, a blonde with a black lightning bolt in his hair gasping and panting. I'm not late, he yelled, looking up to meet the entire class's eyes. Huff, I'm not late, right? It's all right. Midnight fixed him with a salacious wink. I prefer boys who don't come early anyhow. Blushing brilliantly, he raced to hide himself into the crowd, avoiding the judgmental stare of Ida. Midnight clapped her hands, sparing him and turning to the rest of the cohort. Now that everyone's here, why don't we all get into a circle and get to know each other, names, quirks, something about yourself, etc. And if some of you don't want to talk about your quirks for whatever reason, don't worry. We wouldn't be ranked the best hero academy in the country and the world if we encouraged or tolerated any form of discrimination, after all. So, all of you play nice. I'll go first. Clockwise, why don't we? I'm 𝗕𝗓𝗵𝗲, thought you all may know me better as Midnight, my quirk somnambulist. It lets me emit a sleeping gas that affects whoever's attracted to me and my old costume got the laws for hero costumes rewritten because they just couldn't handle all of this. Next, clockwise please. To her left, Anther Greenette flashed a winning, sharp-toothed smile. Names 𝗬𝗁𝗁 Setsuna, the quirk's lizard tail splitter, and 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗹𝗶. As she spoke, her head suddenly fell off her shoulders, cut cleanly at the neck and into the floor and began screaming. Oh my god, holy shit, my head fell off. Call an ambulance. Immediately, almost everyone devolved into chaos and panicked shouting, save for Midnight, who looked exasperated, and her fellow Greenette, who was mumbling across from her. Lizard tail splitter, so that's her quirk? Can she control each part independently? Likely has regenerative properties due to the name. Setsuna glanced around, satisfied with the chaos, everyone panicking save for that broccoli-haired one, Midnight, the one with the monocle, the cat-eyed blonde with twin buns, and the other three from the recommendation exam. The chatter abruptly stopped as her head levitated back to her shoulders. And that's what it does. Oh, and I got in through recommendation. And I like dinosaurs. I'm Bondo Kojiro, a towering, stocky boy with the face of a glue canister, said meekly, sniffling. My quirk's glue and I like making models and stuff. I'm Shinso Hitoshi. I'd rather not reveal my quirk, and I'm not here to make friends. Next, a tired-looking, lanky violet boy drawled. No visible mutations to go off of, likely a quirk presumed weak or villainous, though, Midoriya mused, eyes trailing to the person to his left, a floating set of clothes. Invisibility or a heteromorphic sentient outfit, he wondered. I'm 𝗬𝗪𝗧𝗏. My quirk's pretty simple, I'm just invisible, as you can see. Nah, you can't, she answered, peppily pumping her fists into the air. And I like prank shows. So look out, all of y'all. Several of the other boys shudder at that. Midoriya privately agrees in his head, an invisible girl who likes playing pranks, and 39 new classmates all in the same dorm? All might save us all. Me next. A pink-skinned, pink-haired girl piped up, interrupting the flow. Midoriya looked to his right, seeing the girl jump excitedly up and down far from where 𝗬𝗪𝗁 had spoken. Let's make this a little more interesting. I'm Mina. Ashido Mina, and my quirk's acid. I demonstrate, but, you know. And I like romance. And you look interesting, you're next. She winked her black scara, yellow pupils. Her eyes are really cool. Horns too. Vestigial mutations? Maybe her horns are the source of her acid, or like taps. Midoriya muttered under her breath, giving his attention to the insectoid boy across from her. Not my turn, but fucking whatever, the boy replied, the two metallic prongs on either side of his mouth opening and closing in time with his speech. He had wild, fluffy lime-colored hair on top of a slightly shiny, pale green exoskeleton or carapace. I'm Kamakiri Taguru, and my quirk's blade. A small, shiny metal blade erupted from the palm of his hand. And it lets me make blades anywhere on my body. It's fucking sick, and I'm gonna beat the shit out of all of you and prove I'm the best here. I don't care who goes next. 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗆 edition big words, buckface. A 2-bit extra like you couldn't even crack the top 30. I'm Bakugo. Remember that name, 'cause I'm gonna be number 1. My Quirk's explosion. Small crackles erupted from his hand, which he'd raised to show off to everyone else. Bakugo, you're on thin ice with that little comment. Midnight sternly interjected, tone all business. Bakugo turned incredulously towards her. Huh? The fuck? I don't give a shit about him looking like a bug, but I'm not gonna bother to learn some extra shitty name. Midoriya raised his hand. It's true. I went to the same school as Kachin, and he doesn't hate heteromorphs, he's just like that. Bakugo scoffed. Shut up, Deku, I don't need you fucking defending me. Think I can't speak for myself? Enough. Midnight silenced the two, Bakugo shoving his hands back into his pockets and Midoriya shrinking a little, nervously watching her. Midoriya. You next? Oh, I'm Midoriya Izuku. My quirk's name 𝗧𝗪 superpower. It's an enhancement type quirk. It lets me access an energy stockpile and utilize it to, enhance my actions. Oh, and I'm a big fan of All Might. Isn't everyone? Pony asked, turning to him from Uraraka's side. Oh, sorry, that's a bit basic. Well, my quirk came in really late. Like, just before the entrance exam. So I'm not really used to using it. At 14 years of age? That seems like quite the anomaly. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of any sort of quirk coming in at such an age at all, barring late discoveries of quirks with extraordinarily obscure activation requirements, spoke a monocled girl with pale blue hair across from him. Yeah, I was told it was because the power stockpiled was so high it would blow my limbs off if I unlocked it sooner. Midoriya's voice trailed off, but the smart-looking girl looked mollified. Yes, that makes sense. Phew. He mentally sighed. Good thing All Might gave me that cover story. I didn't think he knew so much about quirk science. In the teacher's lounge, a skeletal blonde man with sunken black eyes felt a chill go down his spine. Maybe I should tell Midoriya Nedzu came up with that cover story for me before they run across each other. Back in the common area, Midnight covertly slipped her phone out from between her breasts, typing a message to Aizawa as the student spoke. Midoriya's file was updated recently because he just got his quirk. Keep in mind for assessment. She glanced back up to watch the beginning of 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗏. In any case, I shall go next. I am 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗧𝗂𝗁𝗍, and my quirk is IQ. It is an intelligence booster activated by consuming herbs, which I prefer to drink through brewing tea. I don't often deign to engage in these sorts of social pleasantries, so I shall end it here. Whoever's to my left, next. Why are you wearing that monocle? It's pretty litty drip. A cream-haired girl with lazy eyes and large lips inquired. 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗂𝘁 sneered. I don't wish to talk about it. Right? A short, stocky boy with oddly square-shaped eyes and a head of combed-back white hair replied. I am 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗍𝗁𝗁𝗍𝗁. My quirk's called Twin Impact, and it lets me create a point of contact upon an attack and amplify it a second time on the subject. I'm also a big fan of boxing, due to my quirk. Manly, complimented another boy with sharp-looking red hair styled into horns. 𝗧𝗪 turned to him with a humble smile. I'm glad to meet another person who appreciates boxing. Would you like to go next? Hell yeah, the sharp boy shouted in reply, a dark-haired girl with twin audio jacks hanging from her lobes wincing at the volume. Audio-based quirk? Likely sensitive hearing. I'm Kirishima-Idru. It's nice to meet everyone. My quirk's hardening. It's pretty basic, not super flashy. It lets me harden any part of my body. And my heroic inspiration is Crimson Riot. I'm gonna be a manly and chivalrous hero just like him. That's wrong. Midoriya's mind supplied. It's incredibly versatile. He can tank attacks. Hardening a thinner point of his body could be incredibly good for piercing attacks. Sheltering civilians behind him, being invincible to gunmen as long as he sees them beforehand. Can he harden his organs or nerves? That would probably be dangerous. Never mind. If the skin protrudes when it hardens, it could also work to patch up small wounds. If the chemical composition of his skin changes and it affects his muscles too, Could it work to purge recently injected toxins? He can likely also tank falling from a great height, opening up freer movement at higher elevations. Oblivious to the verdette's internal musing, the well-built redhead pointed to 𝗧𝗓𝗓. You go next, you look manly as hell. 𝗧𝗓𝗓 nodded. I am 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗄. My quirk is 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗹𝗶𝐻. It lets me regrow my arms and transform the ends into different body parts. As for a detail about myself, I would like to be a hero who advocates for heteromorph rights and advances our standing in society from where it is now. Motioning one of his 6 arms are the 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗿𝗺, he continued. Would you like to go next? She nodded, wringing her hands and attempting to straighten her posture, a full 11 feet, towering over the rest of the class, including the already tall Bondo and 𝗧𝗓𝗓. I'm 𝗧𝗧𝗍𝗧𝗍𝗧𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 I take up to 9 times in a day. And F for something else. My mutations are vestigial. I think they were recessive, actually. My grandmother's sister had a fox mutation, and I think my great-grandfather had some sort of shark-type quirk. Shark? You look like a fox to me? The lightning bolt-haired blonde asked, confusion lacing his voice. A boy with a rock-like head turned to him, signing, but just got a look of confusion. Beside the blonde, a ginger-haired, strong-looking girl began to translate. He says that her snout is shaped less like a fox's and resembles a shark's, and her fur color being teal is closer to a shark's color than a fox's too. The rock boy gave her a grateful look in response. Why yeah, that's right. 𝗳𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗲 mumbled in confirmation. And the doctors also say I have a shark's jaw and teeth. Whoa, wait a second. So if some guy shoots you in the head, you'll just be all fine? A spacey-looking girl with pink hair asked. And no, my quirk has to be manually activated, so if I'm asleep or 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗍 before I can use it, it doesn't work, the teal blonde mumbled, feet shifting uncomfortably on the carpet. What about quirk effects? Midoriya inquired. Say you get hit by a poison-type quirk, or some sort of slow-acting disintegration or body manipulation quirk. Would using your quirk nullify that? She nodded. Why wait, so if you drink a lot of alcohol and get a hangover, could you just, poof, gone? A black-haired boy with round segments on his elbows asked, motioning his hands like a magician disappearing a dove. Oh no. I don't drink, she replied, earning an approving nod from Ida. Can we move on? She asked, looking hopefully at a kind-looking ginger girl, who thankfully got the message and spared her. Sure. I'm Kendo Itsuka. My quirk is big fist, pretty self-explanatory. It lets me grow my hands big and puts more strength in them too. And I'm really into martial arts, since my quirk is so physical and all, so if anyone needs help with fighting styles or anything, I'm your girl. She gave everyone a kind, sisterly smile, crossing her arms. I hope we can all get along, even if there's loads of us here. She gestured to her side. Would you like to go next? Yup. The 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍𝗂 with dreadlocks chirped, before flashing a winning smile and pulling out a pack of business cards that no one took. I'm 𝗧𝗵𝗲, future CEO of 𝗧𝗵𝗵 Industries. I'm dual coursing with support, to be a support hero. If anyone wants babies made, come to my workshop. Oh, my quirk lets my eyes zoom in. She pointed straight at 𝗬𝗁𝗁𝗍𝗂𝗧, which, considering the girl was quite close by, meant her finger was hovering right in the quiet girl's face. You go next. She blandly intoned. I'm 𝗬𝗁𝗁𝗍𝗂𝗧. My quirk is size, it lets me change the size of things. I like tomatoes. She gestured wordlessly to her left, continuing the chain. Sitting to her side on one of the couches was a short boy with a black, avian head. Greetings. My name is 𝗕𝗁𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍𝗂𝗧. The blackness in my soul coalesces into the being known as dark shadow, my quirk. I partake in the reading of dark poetry, for it resonates with my inner demons and soothes the pain in my soul as a being most black. Dark shadow, introduce yourself. A shadowy mirror of the boy popped out of his chest and began excitedly squawking with the demeanor of a muppet. Hiya. I'm Dark Shadow Fumi's quirk. I like it when Fumi eats apples. Oh, and head scratches? Don't call me that, the bird boy whined, pushing his quirk back into his body. Midoriya's fingers twitched. A sentient quirk? I've never met one before. I have to interview her for my notes. Shaken out of his head by Uraraka, who gave him a questioning look, he leaned over and whispered, "Sorry." "Cool, Quirk, I wanted to take notes." "Ah, that makes sense. I've never spoken with a Quirk before," she whispered back, air brushing against his cheek. "She's leaning in, keep it together." He wasn't sure if she noticed his encroaching blush, but leaned away after a moment anyhow. Meanwhile, the white-haired boy with pitch black skin scoffed. "A poser like you could never hope to claim the title of a being most black, for that is I. Call me 𝗬𝗧𝗏. My quirk is named Dark Descent, granting me with the ability to merge myself with the darkest and blackest parts of this mortal realm. Unlike yourself, I opt for the less performative pastime of soothing my soul to the melancholic tunes of Gothic rock." He, in turn, was interrupted by a short girl with her hands draped down from raised elbows and willowy silver hair covering one eye. "Refrain from speaking out of turn, for the only truly haunted one is I, Yanagi Reiko. I am haunted with poltergeist, my quirk, which imbibes my physical form with spiritual power manifest, and allows me to manipulate the very strings of an object's motion at will. I find myself haunted by a dark enjoyment of cryptic web literature." "Oh, so they're all edgelords," everyone thought. "So you read creepypastas?" vocalized Ishido, speaking for the people. Yanagi scoffed in disdain. "Spoken like a normie." She pointed at the green-haired frog girl beside Midoriya. "I choose you to proceed, for your haunted stance mirrors mine." The large-eyed, wide-mouthed greenette indeed was holding her hands in a similar manner. Putting a finger to her chin, she croaked, "My name is Azuityu, but call me 𝗬𝗏𝗏. My quirk is frog, and it lets me do anything a frog can, like climb walls and shoot my tongue out pretty far. Something interesting is I can puke my stomach out, Carol." "Oh, sweet," Setsuna exclaimed. "You're a frog, I'm a lizard," and she waggled her finger around, landing on the twin-bunned cat-eyed blonde. "And you're like a cat, right?" The blonde froze, something hidden under a tense expression. She turned away to face Tsuyu instead, and her demeanor shifted instantly as a deep blush colored her face. "I'm 𝗬𝗏𝗵𝐺, but just call me Himiko. I'd rather not talk about my quirk. I like cute stuff. Like you." She pointed at the frog girl, whose face remained blank. "I saw you in the entrance exam." "I didn't see you, Karo." Toga pouted, before her slitted amber eyes switched to focus on Uraraka, who flinched at the intensity of her burning gaze. "You're cute too. You go next." Uraraka's face burned bright red, her permanent blushes spreading rapidly. I'm Uraraka Ochako. My quirk is zero gravity. It lets me remove the gravity of an object if I touch it with these pads on my fingers. See?" She lifted a hand to demonstrate, and Toga cooed at it. "So cute. And for something interesting, I want to be a rescue hero like my favorite hero, 13. Oh, and I like space." Next. Standing next to her was the boy with the speech bubble face. "I'm Fukudashi manga. My quirk is called comic, and when I make onomatopoeic sounds it gives them the actual properties of the sound. Like if I go bobbling." As he said the words, a bring yellow word bubble popped out of his head before bursting in a flash of light. "It makes light." Midoriya blinked rapidly, the word imprinted in purple in his vision. "Wait, that's incredible," he burst, unable to contain himself. "The applications are potentially endless." "Hi, yup." Manga scratched the back of his bubble, as the edges of it grew slightly softer. "That's why I try to read as much manga and comics as I can, so I can come up with new moves and sound effects. Anyone else here a fan?" Pony raised a hand, and Manga pointed at her in turn. You go next then." "Okay. My name is Pony Tsunatori. I'm from America. My quirk is horn cannon. It lets me shoot my horns out and regrowing them very quick. I like reading manga, but also when I was back in America I like to sit on my horns and fly up in the sky to watch the sunset." She turned to the vine-haired girl. "I like your hair. You go next." Nodding her head in a quick bow, she stepped forward. "I am Shizuki Ibra, and my quirk is named Vines. It is a blessing that allows me to move and grow my hair at will. I enjoy praying, scripture, and religious studies. It is my hope to bring Christ's blessing to the masses as a professional when I graduate and to uplift the poor, needy, and downtrodden through heroism. She dipped her head again and turned to the black-haired boy beside her. Oh, okay. I'm 𝗧𝗵𝗲. My quirk is tape. See my elbows? I can shot super sticky tape out of them. He flashed his pearly whites in a broad grin. Interest-wise? I like video games. And I know my man here likes M too, right? He pointed at the lightning blonde, who smirked and pointed a finger gun back at him. You know it. Kaminari Denki. My quirk's electrification. It lets me make loads of electricity and shoot it out and all that. Oh, but it kinda fries my brain and makes me a dumbass if I overdo it. At least I'm still a looker, right ladies? Nobody reacted. Also, my mom's a pro hero. Her name's Shock Jockey. She's kinda small time, so I dunno if anyone here's heard of her though. Midoriya raised a hand. Oh, I know her. She was one of the first responders during the 𝗵𝗃 eruption in Beppu alongside 13. She kept generators running for almost 30 hours and powered 2 hospitals that otherwise would have failed, saving the lives of hundreds. Hell yeah, represent. Kaminari responded before turning his charm to the large-clipped 𝗕𝗏𝗏 who was tapping away on her phone. How's about you go next, good-lookin'? 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏. She replied. I'm Cammy, and my quirk's glamour. It lets me blow Zaza clouds that kinda give what you see and hear a low-key glow-up. Pretty Gucci, right? I'm a little basic, I just like vibin' with the squad, spillin' tea and all that. You look pretty dope, you go next? Midoriya thought. Cammy pointed the ear-jacked Violet with short-cropped hair who leaned on a couch with casual nonchalance, twirling a jack on her finger. 𝗧𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗁. My quirk's earphone jack. It lets me hear everything and send my heartbeat out of my ear jacks. She lifted one up. Big fan of deep dope's music. I don't really care who goes next. In that case, I shall go. Momo responded, straightening her posture. My name is 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗵𝗲. My quirk is creation, and it allows me to create anything non-living so long as I understand its composition, with my lipids as the fuel source. I enjoy preparing and drinking tea, so if anybody would like to share a pit I'd be delighted. My favorite blend is Gold Tips Imperial. Intelli huffed in judgment, rolling her eyes and earning a glare from the heiress. Why don't you go next, Ida-kun? She continued, receiving a smile from the tall boy. Certainly. I am Ida Tenya, and my quirk is engine. It gives me engines in my calves that allow me to accelerate at great velocity, fueled by orange juice. He adjusted his glasses with one hand, chopping with the other, as 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 and a brunette boy subtly tried to lean away to avoid getting clipped by the rapid movements. As for a fact about myself, I hail from the Ida family line of heroes. My older brother, whom I take great inspiration from, is none other than Ingenium, head of the Ingenium agency in Hosu. I look forward to studying with all of you. He chopped his hand with a sense of finality towards the brunette to his left, who carded a hand through his spiky locks and sighed. Man, so many guys are part of some big-name hero family, huh? Ida-kun, Kaminari-kun, Todoroki-kun. I'm feelin' a little intimidated. I'm 𝗬𝗵𝗶, and my quirk's called solid air. Pretty self-explanatory, I can breathe solid air and make it into shapes and shit. I've spent a while training my quirk since I've always wanted to be a hero, so I can hold my breath for like 8 minutes. Pretty cool, huh? You go next, pretty boy. Aoyama sparkled with delight. Merci. My name is Yuga Aoyama, and my quirk is the brillante and dazzling naval laser. It shines most brightly with a beam that shimmers and rains destruction upon the mechants. I enjoy all that twinkles with magnifiquement. Posing as he spoke, the blonde met nobody's eyes, instead peculiarly staring at a random patch of wall. He twirled on one foot, posing with his legs crossed and a finger pointed at another blonde, whose chin was raised in a pompous fashion. You see to have a sense of flair and panache, non? You go next, monsieur. I must help a fellow classmate shine brightly. His fellow blonde scoffed in return. I am Minoma Nito. I must say, I was shocked by this year's class size, but it merely adds more fuel to my own quirk. Copy. I can copy 4 non-heteromorph quirks for up to 10 minutes and use them at my leisure. It's you. Pony suddenly shouted. You're that jerk that made me call 𝗵𝗲 a mean name. Oh, calm down, I was merely jesting, he replied, placing a hand on his forehead. Here's a fact for you. I am interested in raising this class's reputation. You know UA is the most prestigious heroic institution in Japan, don't you? I was just testing your naivete. And you failed. How does that reflect on the rest of us? Shit's mean to come out the other end of you. Pony grumbled, leveling him a withering glare, which he promptly ignored and continued. Speaking of reputation, why don't I pass it over to son of the number 2 hero, Todoroki-kun? The heterochromatic boy frowned, hair split down the middle, half white, half red, with a nasty scar on the red side. My name is Todoroki Shoto. My quirk is half hot, half cold. I like cold soba. The rock-headed boy next to him glanced around before proceeding to sign again, Kendo translating. My name is Koji Kuda. I like animals. My quirk is Ani voice. It lets me speak to animals and control them. I don't like bugs though. Could the pink-haired girl go next? The pink-haired girl in question placidly nodded, her puffy white earrings shaking as she turned to face everyone else. I'm 𝗬𝗵𝗲. My quirk's warp cloud. I can make clouds that teleport anything in them to anywhere else there's my clouds. I like sponge cake if we're doing foods. If not, I like napping. Yo, you with the teeth, you next? The pale boy with skull-like teeth and a flat nose frowned at that. Don't be rude, 𝗵𝗲. Midnight interjected. Whoops, shit, my bad. Sorry. 𝗵𝗲 corrected, apologetic despite her tired demeanor. It's all right, the white-haired boy replied. I am Juzo Hananuki. I got in by recommendation, which I guess is kinda interesting. My quirk, softening, allows me to soften any non-living thing I touch. I can even swim though so I'm pretty good at swimming too. He gestured to a short brunette next to him, bangs covering her eyes entirely. The girl quivered, shyly pushing her bangs aside to reveal brown, egg-set eyes resembling cross-sliced shiitake mushrooms. I'm Komori Kinoko. My quirk is mushroom. It lets me grow mushrooms 'cause I, make spores. I like eating mushrooms too, and I want T to be an idol hero, kinda like Present Mike or Toy Toy or 𝗬𝗵𝗲, even if I'm not very confident, shroom. I know it's not much of an introduction, sorry. You go next, she mumbled out, pointing at the last person to be called on, a diminutive redhead with ringed eyes framed by black, mask-like marks, wearing pigtails. She's half my height, Midoriya mumbled, drawing Tsuyu and Uraraka's attention. She must have worked really hard to get in. I'm twice her height and I didn't get a single point into entrance exam until the end. Maybe she's got a really powerful quirk packed in there? Uraraka whispered back from his left, drawing a blush on his freckled face. Did I say that out loud again? To his right, Tsuyu nodded. You really like quirks, don't you, Karo? The redhead stood up as high as she could on the couch. I'm 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗏. My quirk is? I'd rather not say. I like working with computers and stuff, and I'm dual coursing in support. You're cute. Toga cooed, drawing a scowl. How'd you get through the entrance exam? Jiraiya questioned. I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't wanna, but I've gotta admit, I'm a bit curious. Manami grinned proudly. I hacked one of the robots and used it to destroy the others. May's telescopic eyes instantly focused on her. We are going to get along well, hacker girl. How'd you like to run the IT side of 𝗬𝗪𝗓 Industries? The redhead crossed her arms. Depends. How'd you like to run the support gadget side of 𝗬𝗪𝗓 Incorporated? She retorted. 𝗬𝗪𝗓 flashed a feral grin. Oh, I like you. Are we done here? An unfamiliar voice drawled, and 40 heads swiveled to face a scruffy-looking man wearing baggy black clothes with an odd scarf around his neck. He looked tired, brows furrowed in frustration. Barely any of you noticed my presence. Work on your situational awareness. I can't believe I agreed to that rat's ridiculous suggestion. I'm getting a headache already. I'm Aizawa Shoyuta, one of your 3 homeroom teachers alongside Kiyama-san here and Ishiyama-ken, who you'll meet later. Enough fooling around, meet me at the P grounds in 20 minutes. With that out of the way, he walked off, and 2 robots carrying large boxes of labeled gym uniforms wheeled up to the assembled students. Bah, ignore him, kiddos. He's all bark and no bite. Get going now, don't want to be late. Finally, some fucking action. Bakugo growled, stomping over and unceremoniously snatching his outfit before leaving the room. Todoroki followed right after him, saying nothing. Kiyama-sensei, what about the orientation ceremony? It would be improper to miss the dean's speech. Surely we need to attend, bemoaned Ida, his soul violently torn between the authoritative words of his teacher and the predetermined words of his pamphlet. Luckily, Midnight rescued him from his tortured reverie. The dean's not expecting you. Aizawa always does this. Midnight replied. Intelli nodded sagely. This does seem more efficient. I've already memorized all the details on the pamphlet and the website, so it would be a waste of time to attend the ceremony anyhow. Mollified with the affirmative words of 2 teachers, Ida began corralling everyone else towards the uniforms. Why are we heading to the PE field then? Asked Shinso, picking up a shrink-wrapped blue sports jacket and pants emblazoned with UA's colors. He raised a questioning eyebrow. Seems a bit early for hero training considering it's just orientation day. Midnight grinned sadistically. We're gonna start with an extra special quirk evaluation, as a fun little test to find out who takes charge. Her voice paused on that note, breathy. And who follows behind, to stretch all 40 of you little doves until you break. Plus ultra. Shit. Midoriya gulped. Class 1's seating arrangement. Class 1's dorm layout. If you all were serious about entering the field of heroics, you would have made it here in 10 minutes. Does it take the nation's finest up-and-coming heroes 10 minutes for a mere change of clothes and another 10 to leisurely stroll to where they've been summoned? 40 students gathered on the 𝗬𝗵𝗃𝗍 grounds, currently wearing their fresh new sports uniforms and being chewed out for following their teacher's orders to the letter. Plus ultra? In the future, I will expect to see a substantial improvement, or you may find yourself with a prospective career in general studies instead. Is that understood? The scruffy, tired-looking Aizawa showed aside at the nodding of his newest class, tinged with frantic nervous energy. The sound of Midnight's whip echoed across the PE grounds as the woman in question approached the crowd from behind. Now, when he gives an order, you say "Yes, Aizawa-sensei." Yes, Daddy. Aizawa groaned. Don't call me that. He turned back towards his class. Today we will be undertaking a physical and quirk assessment test to determine your capabilities so as to better understand your baselines. Bakugo Katsuki. You scored the highest amount of villain points in the practical exam. What was your softball throw record in high school? The explosive blonde shoves his hands into his pockets, hunching over slightly. 67 meters. Aizawa held out a softball. Now, standing in the circle, do whatever it takes to throw this ball as far as possible, including using your quirk. His face practically lit up in a feral grin, and Bakugo cracked his knuckles and stretched his arms as he snatched the ball from Aizawa's grasp and stormed to the white circle laid out on the ground. We get to use our quirks, eh? Then take a good look, extras. This is what it means to be number 1. Bending an arm back, small crackles and smoke began to seep out from underneath the ball as he wound up, before lunging forward and whipping the ball up screaming "Die!" An immense explosion erupting from his palm as the ball rocketed out carried by a jet of flame. Aizawa held up a counter. 705.2 meters. The first step to pushing your limits is to know them. This is about to be lit. Cammy exclaimed, claiming a high five from Mina. Damn, UA's hero course doesn't hold back, huh? Zero nodded. Are you here to goof around or to save lives? Aizawa cut off the excited murmurings of the class with a by-now signature glare. Wasted time can't be recovered, so you had all better make the most of the 3 years you have been given here at UA. Do you expect to become heroes by playing patty cake with your friends? Clearly, this class-size experiment was a mistake. As your homeroom teacher, it's my duty to trim the fat, so let's make this even more fun with a little game. The lowest 10 scorers by the end of these 8 tests will be instantly thrown out of the hero course. Now hold it, Aizawa. Midnight interjected. You're not the only homeroom teacher anymore, and both us and Ishiyama have to have a consensus on expulsions from this course. However, she turned back to the ghost-faced 40, who'd only moments before been thoroughly cowed by Aizawa's threat. That doesn't mean I'll hesitate to expel troublemakers or those who are satisfied coasting on by in this course. Nobody likes a pillow princess. Aizawa huffed in exasperation. Are you going to ruin my every rational deception for the next 3 years? Rolling his eyes, he brought up an empty scoring screen. Before we begin these tests, Menami, the pint-sized redhead squeaked as she received his undivided attention. Kayama has informed me you do not wish to reveal your quirk to your cohort as of yet. Having looked at your file, there is no potential application for it on this test. She breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Aizawa-sensei. That doesn't apply for anybody else here, he warned. Shinso, Toga, both of you have refused to reveal your quirks to your classmates as well. However, if I do not see you use them to attempt to achieve the highest scores possible in these tests, be well aware I will be the first to propose your expulsion. Being a hero means being placed in uncomfortable situations, and not every hero is a spotlight hero who will be beloved by all. Get used to it, unless your social standing amongst your classmates is less important to you than the lives of civilians. He gave no reaction to the scowls of the two, Toga squinting her eyes so tightly he could barely see the whites and Shinso clenching his fists and teeth in agitation. Midoriya, Kayama informed me you are currently unable to use your quirk without completely shattering your own limbs, mainly due to so recently acquiring it. Midoriya cringed at his words, Uraraka beside him sweat dropping at the memory of the verdette falling down to earth like a downed kite, limbs flapping loosely. I expect you to figure out a way of using your quirk without totally incapacitating yourself today. He turned back to the rest. First test is the 50-meter dash. As Ida and Bakugo were called up to the starting line, Midoriya gulped. This is 𝗵𝗲𝗍. I can't use one for all for most of these. The ball throw? Grip strength? Maybe those could work? I can't use it for anything that needs repeated actions or is based on endurance. Stuck in his own head, a hand suddenly clapped onto his shoulder, the world slamming back into focus. Hey, are you okay? I can hear you sweating from here. Uraraka asked in concern. He shakily nodded. I'm just trying to figure out how to use my quirk for all of these. I can't really use it for any running right now, and I don't want to lose my arms after just doing one test. Don't worry, Kero. You'll figure something out. Tsuyu's low, croaky voice assured him. You seem to know a lot about quirks, so you can probably figure out your own too, Kero. Why? I'm not gonna be able to use it for running anyways, so that gives me more time to figure it out for other events. He brightened up a little, Tsuyu looking satisfied at being able to lift his mood. Uraraka. Intelli. Wish me luck. I can't do much with this test though. Uraraka chirped, throwing back a wave as she departed to the start line. As Tsuyu waved back, Midoriya was hit with a brainwave. Cupping his hands around his mouth, he called out, Uraraka, you get nausea when you use your quirk on yourself, right? She turned back to him. Yeah, how come? Even for a split second? He prodded. She considered the question. It kinda tends to set in after a few seconds and really doesn't get bad until I use it for a bit after. Why? Because I have an idea. If you use it on yourself right before you get to the finish line and release right after, you can complete the last section much faster without feeling it too much. You weren't going to so you could do the other tests, right? Yeah. I was just gonna remove the gravity of my clothes. Thanks, Deku. She rushed to the track, Aizawa boring a hole in her head from the conversation as Ida returned to Midoriya and Tsuyu's side, with Pony and the purple-haired boy apparently called Shinso walking over as well. The group watched as Intelli appeared to be talking to Aizawa. So the robot at the start line tracks the racer and captures the start before correlating the data with the end camera, the monocled girl persisted. Aizawa nodded from behind his scarf. Satisfied, she turned back to the starting line as Uraraka walked over. As Aizawa called to go, Intelli smacked the camera to the side and began to sprint, keeping pace with Uraraka whose clothes were floating as she sprinted down as well. The camera shortly reoriented as the two made their way near the end of the track, Uraraka suddenly shifting to smack herself with a hand as she put all her might into her legs and pushed off forwards, rocketing past the finish line. The cameras at the end beeped as Intelli crossed the line shortly after. Izawa checked his tablet. 𝗬𝗧𝗏, 6.05 seconds. 𝗬𝗏𝗁, 6.21 seconds. As the two returned to the start line, murmuring about 𝗬𝗏𝗁's method pervaded the air. Disgraceful. Sensei, 𝗬𝗏𝗁-san's score should be rendered void for such a flagrant violation of the stipulations of the exercise. Ida hollered out, joined by Monoma's heckling. Is this the low our class is going to stoop to? The blonde sneered in disgust. Truly a sinful act, echoed Shizuki, shaking her head in dismay. To see one of my own classmates make a mockery of heroism is unthinkable. What 𝗬𝗏𝗁 did here was use the available information to her advantage. Izawa interrupted, his voice a hot knife, cleaving silence into the conversations happening around him. Without a physical quirk, she instead learned the rules of the engagement and outsmarted the test's rules itself. 𝗬𝗏𝗁 preened at the praise and the befuddled stares of everyone else around her. That being said, these are tests designed to gauge your physical abilities. Izawa continued. Clever tricks are just that, tricks. A hero who resorts to tricks will find themselves dead when they end up in a situation where actual ability is necessary. 𝗬𝗏𝗁, I'll count this score, but I won't allow future tricks like that in any of the other tests. You two leave. Tsunatori. Sir, you're up next? Yes, sensei, she grumbled, dejectedly, before 𝗬𝗧𝗏𝗏's arm touched her shoulder. Hey, that was a pretty good idea though. I think Izawa-sensei was impressed if he counted it. She pushed the gravity girl's arm off of herself. Don't condescend to me. Go find somebody else to blabber off to. With that, she bitterly marched to find somewhere in the crowd of students to stand that wasn't actually in the crowd of students without looking like she was just standing off to the side and separate from everyone else. Unaware of the mental calculations the other girl was undertaking, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 returned to Tsuyu and Midoriya and turned to watch Pony and the tape boy compete. Midoriya's hands periodically twitched watching the competitors go. Pony grabbed her horns and used their speed to pull herself forward on her durable hooves like a jet ski. Mina skated on her acid as Todoroki skated on his ice. Aoyama turned backwards and propelled himself with the blast of his laser, singing a tree a good deal away in the process. As no Tsuyu, when called up, displayed her amphibian agility by sprint hopping to the goal. Josei's legs, as tall as Midoriya himself, allowed for massive strides. Hananuki swam like a dolphin through the ground as Shizuki's vines continually speared the ground and dragged her forwards like a demented spider. Setsuna's pieces split apart and whizzed to the finish at blistering speed, narrowly beating Kurwaro, who'd simply merged into the shadow of the building nearby, overcast by the sun, and popped out a moment later on the other end. Everyone was putting their best foot forward. Eventually, Midoriya was called up and ran against Bondo in a rather unceremonious showing, though at least he'd beat the glue-spouted boy by a full second. Izawa humphed but couldn't seem to find anything to complain about in either boy's showings, and sent them on their way. Toga. Kirishima. You're up next? As the cat-eyed blonde skipped over from where she'd been standing near Shuji and the redhead marched up with a determined grin, Midoriya returned to his friends? Too early. To the sides of the people he knew. You're really fast, Izuku. You must do a lot of exercise, right? Pony cheered, offering a high five and receiving a weak, nerve-filled slap on the palm in return. Yeah. I did a lot of strength training before the entrance exam, including running or jogging while carrying a really heavy load. He felt his skin prickling and turned to see a flash of blonde hair disappear behind the tree Aoyama had nearly felled, still charred and smoking. Must have imagined it. You are quite muscular, Karo. That gym uniform seems to be a tight fit on you. So you noted, staring at my chest. Midoriya blushed faintly. I guess. He turned to watch as gray sludge oozed off of Toga, the hulking six-armed form of Shuji rushing out of it as Izawa called out. Transformation-type quirk, she can become somebody, retains physical strength, she runs quite fast as Shuji, can she copy quirks? How long does it hold for? Activated by sight, maybe touch like Monoma's, can she store a transformation? Or transform specific parts of her body? Hagakure. Shinso. Izawa's voice pierced his speculation, And Midoriya averted his eyes right as the sludge leaked off of Shuji toga to reveal a toga that probably wasn't wearing her gym uniform, but I'm not sure it wasn't looking. Uraraka shook Ida's arm. Ida? You okay? Hey, Deku-kun, hey, something's up with that in. Midoriya turned to meet a blank, glassy-eyed stare next to the shorter lilac-haired Shinso, who looked frustrated. He's fine. Ida, follow me. Vacant stare seems to be caused by Shinso. He expects him to follow orders, isn't surprised by this. Shinso, you have some sort of mind control quirk, don't you? The wild-haired boy grit his teeth. And so what if I do? Aizawa-sensei told me to use it or I'm out, right? I'm just doing what he said. Release Ida, Kero. Tsuyu demanded, squaring up. Uraraka looked similarly incensed, and Pony looked about 2 seconds away from spearing one of Shinu's feet to the ground with a horn to prevent him from getting away. Hang on, guys. Midoriya waved his hands, trying to calm the others down. He turned to Shinso. Ida's an understanding guy, kind of. I'm sure if you explained everything to him, he'd be more than happy to let you use your quirk on him to win. Oh, you think he's gonna be happy handing his motor functions over to me on a silver platter? Shinso retorted, venom dripping from words. Think everyone's gonna be oh so kind to me after they learn my quirk? Maybe they'd be kinder if you asked. Uraraka spat. Shinso glared at her, matching her own furious gaze. Then, without any physical signal, Ida seemed to relax. What was I doing? He blinked hard, wiping his glasses and looking around. What's happening? It looks like you 5 are going to fight. I hope I don't have to tell you I'd report it to Aizawa-sensei if you tried. Midoriya turned to Ida. Hey Ida, can Shinso here use his quirk on you for the next test? It's kinda how his quirk works. He Ned's another person. Ida furrowed his brow and turned to Shinso. I suppose as long as it is allowed by Aizawa-sensei. How exactly does your quirk function? The boy looked skeptical. Just have to respond to me. And then, before he could, Ida was seized by the same invisible force and somehow stiffened more than he usually stood. Shinso looked taken aback, watching as the others studied him, Midori with a curious gaze and fingers almost violently twitching, the others more apprehensive. You're weird, he drawled, pointing at Midoriya, who turned scarlet and looked away guiltily, hands tensing. Ida, give me a piggyback ride to the field. The taller brunette picked him up and carried him over, Aizawa tiredly giving him a once-over before waving him over to the field. Midoriya, Uraraka, Tsuyu, and Pony watched as Aizawa shouted, "Go!" and Ida's engine legs let out a burst of speed, carrying himself and Shinso to the finish line in seconds. Hagakure reached it a few seconds later, before giving the Shinsu carrying Ida a presumably quizzical expression. Ida's world snapped back into focus as he felt Shinso draped over his back, crawling back off to the ground again. Where? The running track. That's disconcerting. He settled on. Shall we make our way back to the others, Shinsu-kun? We? He confusedly echoed, raising an eyebrow. Ida shrugged off the last lingering effects of his trance. Oh yes, I'm sure Midoriya-kun and the others would like to talk. To be forthright with you, I am more confused than anything else about what just transpired. Shinso and Ida returned to the perplexing sight of a grinning Midoriya vibrating excitedly. That's an incredible quirk, Shinso. The activation requirements are response-based, right? How long can you hold somebody for? Are there limits to what you can make them do? The lilac-haired boy flinched, taken aback. Trying to learn the limits of the brainwasher already, huh? Midoriya frowned. And no? I'm just interested to learn about your quirk. Mental quirks are rare, and not many heroes operate with them, and since the human mind can be so vague and undefined, there's much less research and documentation on them online. Makes sense. Who'd want to learn about a villain quirk, except how to beat it? Did people call you a villain in high school? Is that why you didn't want to reveal your quirk? Uraraka asked, eyes fotening. Or making friends? Pony tacked on. Shinso scoffed. Why would perfect hero students with flashy quirks want to make friends with villain boy? Made sense to me. Disconcerting though it may have been, you don't seem to be malevolent, Shinsu-kun, stated Ida, arms chopping. I did not think for a second you were villainous in nature. It would be improper and hasty to assume such things about our cohort, even if there are a few ruffians amongst us who seem partial to hooliganry, he finished, leveling a glare at Bakugo, who appeared to be suffering greatly as Kirishima tried to talk to him. He means Bakugo acts more villainous than you, Kero? Tsuyu translated. For what it's worth, people in high school used to say I looked gross because of my quirk. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 was flabbergasted. Gross? How could they say that? Are they blind? The froggy girl shrugged. Only one other girl there'd agree with you, and she was also a heteromorph who got made fun of. More than me, actually. But I kinda understand where you're coming from, Ajusen. Midoriya stuttered. My quirk coming in late meant nobody wanted to be friends with me or anything. That's why they called me Deku. It means you useless, because everyone thought I had no quirk, including me. The gravity girl's head whipped from Tsuyu to Midoriya, then back to Tsuyu, then back again, as if watching a tennis match. How dare they? I should tan their hides and float 6 ways teach Sunday. A growl escaped from the depths of her chest, a protective blaze burning in her auburn eyes as she grit her teeth and seethed in rage. The two greenettes were momentarily stunned by the sudden change in attitude, not registering the almost imperceptible heat on their faces. It's all fine, 𝗬𝗧𝗏, seriously. I have a quirk now. Midoriya comforted. Thanks for standing up for us, Kero. It's all in the past though. Also, Midoriya, call me Tsu, Kero. Tsuyu croaked. The fire remained in the brunette's eyes as she calmed down a little, heaving out an annoyed sigh. Well, it's still not fair. Both of y'all deserve better than that. What was that accent? Pony tilted her head, curious. My Japanese is not very good for other accents. I only know basic. I believe it's the Kansai dialect, Tsunatori-san. Ida informed her. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 bushed. No, you must have misheard. I was just so angry, you know? So I stuttered a bit like Midoriya. Point is, Shinso, Midoriya returned the subject to the brainwashing boy in question. We won't judge you for your quirk. We weren't all given the easiest times either. Shinso shifted uneasily on his feet, not responding. Deciding to leave the subject there, he offered a small, kind smile and turned back to analyze the next test. Aizawa was walking around the field handing out grip strength devices to everyone. Shuji had managed to fit 3 of his thick, muscular arms into the device and gripped it with them simultaneously. 540 kilograms. Kendo appeared to do the same, except with one massive hand, for a much lower but still admirable result of 200 kilograms of force. Josei gripped the thing with her teeth, biting down. 310 kilograms. Oh, she has a strong jaw because of vestigial shark mutations. If only I had my notebooks. Komori and Todoroki grew a large, firm mushroom and a block of ice within their respective devices. 70 kilograms. 120 kilograms. All around the grounds, people were using their quirks to net them better scores than they would have otherwise got. Setsuna split apart to fit both hands and feet on the tester and bit down on it as well. Tokoyami and Dark Shadow both gripped down on theirs, though Dark Shadow was obviously doing most of the heavy lifting. Toga turned into Shuji and got his exact score for herself. Kodai placed a pebble inside the tester and expanded it until the tester snapped under the strain. Shota gripped down and then Twin impacted his grip for a better score. Shiozaki's tester couldn't even be seen under the jungle of vines. On the other hand, there were also students who couldn't use their quirks for the test, albeit not for a lack of trying. Ashido called for another hand grip tester, having melted through her first one while experimenting. Moada just settled for a regular hand grip strength after a few failed attempts at teleporting the device to see if that would affect it. Aoyama did not even bother using his quirk, Kamakiri by his side sarcastically complimenting his dainty hands for his low score. Midoriya was unsure if Aoyama could tell. Kurwaro, Hagakure, Intelli, Kaminari, and many others just gripped it as normal for a normal result. Hell, if the expression on Iba's face was any indication, her compressed physique did not result in any extraordinary strength benefits, but rather the opposite. This and the ball throw are the only tests I can use my quirk for as it is now, But even still, losing an entire arm or hand for the rest of the tests will be a huge energy drain and hamper my other scores. Midoriya stared down at his tester, unsure. Maybe if I use one hand and save the other for the throw. Grip? Placing his stance wide in anticipation of the blinding pain, red veins of energy lit up across his hand. Plus, whatcha doin'? Wanna? With an undignified yelp, Midoriya released control and spun around to greet that cat-eyed blonde with the twin buns. Toga, his mind supplied. The transformation quirk user who turned into Shuji. I'm just gonna do the grip test, Toga-san. How did you go? Call me Himiko. She chirped as she leaned in, a permanent blush radiating across her face, stretching from the corners of her cheeks to above her nose, between her sharp, dark lashes. Wow, she's really close. I'm sure you saw me use Mizokuin's form for the running race, so I just used that again. He's super cute. Though, he's not as fast at running as I thought he'd be. I could probably have done better as myself. That's still a really useful quirk. It's much better than mine for this. He sighed, bracing for the pain as he flexed his hand again, the new yet familiar energy of one for all coalescing on his fist. Stand back, he warned. So, Toga interrupted, ignoring him completely. I heard you got super smashed up during the entrance exam, and Sensei-kun said you shattered all your arms and legs? Why yeah, it really hurt. My quirk is still way too powerful for my body to handle, even after all my training. Midoriya dejectedly mumbled. I almost hit the ground like that if Uraraka didn't fly in to save me. I think she's super cute too. Toga, agreed? Midoriya blushed, the pink on his face contrasting his viridian hair. She pouted and put a finger to her lips in a way oddly reminiscent of Tsuyu. Oh, I've got it. It's like knives. What? He was genuinely perplexed, but the blonde carried on undeterred, almost gaining momentum in her excitement. Okay, so when you're fighting with knives and you want to hit someone at range, do you throw your knife at them? No. Was fighting with knives something she did to train for the hero course? No. Instead, you gotta get loads of itty-bitty cute little throwing knives instead. She lifted her skirt up to reveal a small set of knives in a professional-looking holster strapped to her inner thigh. That's a lot of thigh knives. Midoriya ripped his gaze away, pink tint now going scarlet. Toga smiled in satisfaction at his reaction. See, if you throw away your main fighting knife, you're disarmed, and then the bad guys can stab you until your guts spill out your chest. Get it? He shook his head, clearing away the sinful thoughts. He could feel Shiozaki's gaze as if it were a vague presence on his shoulder, then realized how that looked and nodded. I need to find a way to use my quirk in smaller, more expendable ways, like, he began to mutter into his fist, unaware of Toga's widening grin as she slowly leaned in close, before placing a hand on his wrist and gently guiding it to her other hand. Find your throwing knives, Izuku, she whispered, breath hot, prying his fist open and tracing her hand softly down the ridges of his fingers. Fingers. That's it. Thanks, Toga-san. Stand back, he warned, a determined grin carving onto his face that she mirrored in full, cheeks stretching and fangs gleaming. Curling a single finger onto the gripping section, he braced and felt the energy of 100% coalescing into a single finger that buzzed painfully at even the most minute twitch. He clenched it violently. Smash. Instantly the grip tester shattered, plastic and metal shrapnel exploding out and cutting shallow trails in his cheek as larger chunks of it fell to the ground. For a full second, Midoriya stood there, watching the dust that was kicked up settle back onto the field, before white-hot pain dug its claws into his finger. He glanced down. Like his arms before, it was discolored and bruised so entirely it was practically completely purple, red veins more prominent. A drop of blood leaked out near the knuckle. The tester. He weakly mumbled before turning at the sound of footsteps. Aizawa approached, holding up the tablet. I'm glad you figured a method that works for you, Midoriya, he plainly stated, tapping a few times at the screen. I will be lenient today since you only recently became privy to your quirk, but I expect you to reduce the damage it does in the future. He held up the tablet. As for the grip test, it was only logical for this to happen, And as such I anticipated circumstances like this, which is why every grip tester has a remote backup function. It archived and sent your results to me every millisecond you squeezed it. 1,200 kilograms of force. Can you continue? Midoriya gritted his teeth. The pain throbbing inside his finger was stabbing, nerves in his hand on fire, every instinct in his body screaming at him to slap his broken finger, or dunk it in ice water, or bit himself, or something else. He gritted his teeth harder. Yes. This was nothing. This is way better than having both legs and my arm shattered. Aizawa said nothing, giving him a once-over before silently leaving with an unreadable expression half hidden by the folds of his scarf. Midoriya turned back to Toga. Thanks, Toga-san. I couldn't have. Toga? She stared at his broken finger, almost enraptured by the sight, mouth hanging open as if she wasn't even aware of where she was. Her slitted black pupils were blown out across her iris, the deep amber color barely visible beneath them as they flicked across his finger, before settling on the blood droplet as it streaked a trail of faint red down his knuckles. Her eyes flicked up to his face and her pupils contracted violently as she flinched back before turning in, withdrawing into herself. Are you okay, Toga-san? She took a breath as a tight-lipped smile found its way onto her face. I'm fine, Izuku-kun. Just faint at the sight of blood, you know? He nodded slowly. If you're sure, she giggled. Aren't you a little hero? I should get back to Mizoku-kun. I'm sure you'll do great on the rest of the tests, Izuku-kun. She blew a little joking kiss at him as she skipped away back to the six-armed boy's side. Standing long jump, Aizawa called, and Midoriya scanned the fields for the familiar green, brown, blue, lilac, and blonde of his group? Friends? No, you just met them, don't presume. The standing long jump, unfortunately, was not a test that Midoriya wanted to risk his toes on, and thus he gave his best effort but still landed a normal distance in the sand. He watched on as each of the people he knew cleared the sand, save for Ida who hadn't the space to build speed. Uraraka floated herself over. Tsuyu was obviously a natural at anything that required jumping. Pony stuck a horn between each elbow and her sides and carried herself across the sand using them. That fine control and levitation of her horns makes her quirk is so versatile. He mumbled to himself. Shinso asked and brainwashed Uraraka to float him and had an even easier time than Uraraka as he didn't suffer from its aftereffects. To be honest, he could have just asked Uraraka, but then it wouldn't count as using his quirk for the test, so the result was basically the same. Still, it wasn't so bad. Riding on the high of his high score in the grip strength test that was at least partially contributed to by the adrenaline coursing through his system, Midoriya took his mind off of the pain by observing all the unique quirks on display. Manga exclaimed, bloop, before the text of his speech turned rubbery and floaty and he grabbed onto it like a balloon, giving him an extra long jump, albeit not enough to clear the sand. Setsuna just split into pieces and levitated across the whole way without even breaking a sweat. Kaminari had attempted something Heach saw in a movie, guys, it's gonna be awesome, trust me, and lightning sparked from underneath his feet, lifting him up 0 meters and only making Aizawa's hair stand on end before he erased the blonde's quirk and told him to just take a jump, which he dejectedly did. Our teacher is Eraserhead, he absently noted, Shinsu's head whipping to him in surprise. Wait, what? Aizawa's Eraserhead? Midoriya nodded. He just erased Kaminari's quirk. His hair floated and Kaminari's sparks went out, and I think his eyes glowed red too. An expression of almost giddiness appeared before Shinso schooled it, playing it cool. Neat. Eraserhead's a cool hero, from what little I found online. I like underground heroes. You know, when I was watching old UA Sports Festival recordings online as a kid, I think I remember something about a kid from general education with a quirk erasing quirk. Midoriya offered. That was probably Aizawa-sensei, right? A lot of his competitors didn't look very happy about having their quirks erased. They probably called his quirk a villain's quirk too. Shinso concluded. Midoriya nodded and leaned over to tune into Tsuyu and Pony's conversation. I don't think Hananuki's quirk is very useful for this one, Kero. Tsuyu observed as the pale, white-haired boy made his way to the standing long jump's starting position. You probably. Pony concurred. Unless his quirk can let him swim through the air? Don't think so, 𝗧𝗫. Unless the solid air guy helps, but that's not allowed. Oh, 𝗧𝗵𝗲? The two turned to face Midoriya. I don't think Hananuki will have too much of a problem here. Remember the rules? Tsuyu looked at him oddly. Stand on the line, no run up, jump, and land as far past the line as you can, 𝗧𝗪? Midoriya nodded. I think Aizawa won't count it as landing on the ground until he's touching solid ground. Watch. The trio watched as Midoriya's prediction came true. Hananuki jumped into the air and passed the line before sinking into the sand, swimming through it, and emerging at the other end of the pit with a proud, toothy smile. Aizawa tapped at his tablet and waved the next person over, and didn't look to be in a score-evoking mood. 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗍𝗫. The teacher called. I wonder what she'll do here. Midoriya mused. Tsuyu fixed him with an uncertain look. You know her? Why? She helped me figure out what I needed to do for the grip test, actually. Midoriya answered, studiously ignoring the urge to wring his hands together despite the pain that throbbed from his broken finger. We talked a bit about knives. Realizing how weird that sounded, his voice trailed off. She has some sort of transformation-type quirk. She used Shuji's form for the grip strength and dash. Don't know why she didn't want to tell anyone. Maybe she gets the person's memories when she turns into them? I know I wouldn't want anyone knowing everything, he trailed off again. I don't like her, Tsuyu declared. She gives me the creeps. I think I saw her staring at you earlier. Midoriya didn't respond for a moment, watching as the blonde girl pounced forwards in a rather elegant and impressive front flip, though not close to clearing the sand. Maybe she was concerned? She said she doesn't deal well with blood, and she seemed nice enough, Midoriya defended. Plus, she called me cute. The corners of Tsuyu's mouth twitched minutely downwards. She what? Pony raised an eyebrow, snout wrinkled. Do you think she's doing the making moves on Midoriya, Tsu? To be fair, she also called Shuji-kun cute. Midoriya blushed. And Uraraka-san, and you too, Aisuzu-san. Uraraka walked over, tilting her head. Like a puppy. What's going on? I heard my name? We were just talking about Toga-san. Oh, the blonde girl. She seems odd. Uraraka frowned. She talked to Midoriya-kun about knives? Tsuyu added. And maybe she's just a collector, he replied. Tsuyu gave him a deadpan stare and turned back to Uraraka, who squinted, puffing out her pink cheeks like a chipmunk. She called my hands cute, she murmured, inspecting the pink pads atop them. A moment of silence passed. They are nice. Tsuyu conceded, feeling like she'd lost a battle but with no idea of what that could be. The four of them turned back to watch the others complete the jumps. As Aizawa called for the repeated sidestep test to begin, Bakugo grumbled and made his way over to a robot tripod to begin. Fucking useless extras. He felt the familiar sensation of sparks erupting from his palsum as he ignited his sweat, rapidly blasting back and forth as he jumped side to side. Timing and control was key. Too much force on either side and he'd spin out and look like a complete fucking moron in front of everyone, like that dunce-faced lightning extra. Explosion was an almost soothing quirk to use as he felt its dull impacts against his palm, long since used to the light, almost stinging sensation of smaller explosions. The robot beeped after a minute. 90, its monotone voice read out from some shitty text-to-speech program. Bakugo TCH edition. Today was his first day at UA, but it was shaping up to be shitty. A pack of extras was hounding him, yapping about who knows, some shitty-haired redhead, some plain-looking brown-haired guy who ripped his hair off, some annoying bitch with green hair that looked a bit like Deku's, that black-haired extra with big teeth, and a pink-haired girl who looks like a stoner. That wasn't even the shittiest part of the day. Even though he'd declared he was number one to all of the extras in the class, he hadn't come first for a single test so far. The pink-haired stoner bitch had dominated the side jumps by just teleporting back and forth. The running race was designed for Four Eyes, but some other extra used Four Eyes to beat him as well. Probably some teamwork quirk. But then, to make matters worse, stoner bitch beat it instantly as well after sending a bunch of smoke to the finish line. And clearing the long jump with a bunch of explosions wasn't fucking impressive when rip-off brunette just breathed some air platforms and walked across the sand with no effort, and pink cheeks and horse face and frog face and icy hot. Bakugo wasn't stupid. He'd still be number one, just they fucking watch. But every single test had some sort of niche a Quirk could fit. There was no beating teleport bitch on the sidestep test, and he knew this. But then there was the fucking grip strength test. Already he'd been beaten by Octopus and Foxface and Vinehair and Birdface and Big Hands and a bunch of other extras. But then Deku came in first place. He'd barely caught the end of it, but he saw the grip tester fucking snap in Deku's hands as Cat Eyes watched. More than 1,000 fucking kilograms. How the fuck did shitty Deku catch up so quick? He must have been spewing bullshit. Was he hiding it the whole fucking time? It was time to get fucking answers. Pulling himself from his brooding, he stomped over to where Deku was chatting it up with some other dumbass, unaware that shitty hair had noticed him leave. Midoriya had just finished the sidesteps with a normal, if higher than average score. 10 months of training with all might showed on his body, the once reedy boy blossoming into a lean, sculpted Olympian's physique. He and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 watched as Pony, Iida, and Shinso finished their repeated sidesteps, neither having any bright ideas for using their quirks and content to rough it out with a purely physical score. 𝗬𝗏 had blown all of them out of the water anyways. Hey Midoriya? Distracted from the sight of Kamakiri trying to finagle his blades into some sort of balancing implement for the sidestep test, Midoriya turned to 𝗬𝗧𝗏. Oh, yes 𝗬𝗧𝗏-san? I was thinking. Do you want me to use my quirk on your broken finger? To make it a bit lighter? She tapped 2 fingers together idly. I figured it's probably bothering you. He was dumbstruck and properly looked back at the brunette girl. Her kind eyes met his. That's really considerate, 𝗬𝗧𝗏-san, but, can you even activate it on 1 finger only? She pondered that for a moment, before perking up. Only one way to know. This is like Quirk experimenting anyways, right? Isn't that your thing? Alright. Here. He offered the purple finger to her, wincing as the air rushed against it as he moved his hand. It felt like it was twice as large as it looked. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 tentatively reached her hand out, before touching all 5 fingers onto Izuku's with a feather-like tap. Wincing, he felt his gravity leave him as he started idly floating upwards. Ah, darn it. She pouted, kicking a foot around on the grounds. It was worth a try. Midoriya consoled. Can you get me back down? She tried to reach up and grab his leg, but by that point he was already floating higher than her reach, which wasn't saying much as she was on the short side. She frowned and crossed her arms impetuously. Well, if you're gonna be like that, maybe I won't help you down. Did I say that out loud? She nodded sternly. Midoriya was about to apologize sincerely before he took a second look at her face and saw barely hidden amusement breaking out from behind the faltering, stern facade. For the first time in his life, Midoriya felt confidence around a woman, despite the fact that she had him floating about 2 meters off the ground. And maybe I'll call 𝗬𝗧𝗏-san over to help me then. She is more than twice your height. I'm pretty sure she could reach me. He cheekily replied, red spreading across Ochako's face as her cute pink cheeks puffed up again like she was doing a chipmunk impression. He cupped his hands around his mouth. Hey, Asuyu-san. Can you help me down? He turned back to 𝗬𝗧𝗏, glad to be able to tease somebody for once in his life. She's taller than you. He mock-whispered to the gravity girl, who looked more mock-incensed by the second. She is not. The target of his ridicule shouted back. Midoriya chuckled. That's just because she has a bent posture. If she stood up straight, she would be, he responded sagely. The frog girl walked over, an eyebrow raising at the commotion. 𝗬𝗏 opened her mouth to begin to speak. 𝗬-chan, stand up straight. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 cut her off. Confused, she did as told. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 observed her for a second and squinted, hand hovering around for a moment. She is not, you liar. As Midoriya laughed in the air at the brunette's fury, he suddenly felt a tug down, a long pink tongue wrapping firmly around his waist and reeling him in down to earth. That's tight, he observed. Not too tight though, it's kinda nice and warm actually. His feet made contact with the earth again and her tongue retracted back into her wide-open mouth with a thwup. You two are dash, 𝗬𝗏 began before stopping herself at the sound of distant explosions, rapidly approaching. Shitty nerd. What the fuck did you do? What are you talking about? Kacchin, I don't dash. Bakugo stormed up to the trio and let off a few pops from his hand, rearing it back. Don't fucking lie to me. When did you get it? You been lying to me the whole fucking time? Kacchin, I don't know what you mean dash. Hey, shove off. Uriarika shoved the ash-blonde boy back roughly, holding her palms out threateningly. He stumbled back before recovering, then shoved his hands in his pockets. Who the fuck are you? Deku's guard dog? The only one being a bitch here is you, Karo. Tsuyu glared. Leave Midoriya alone. I don't know what your deal with him is, but you're loud and annoying either way. Yeah. Uriarika chimed in. Why are you even here? Don't you have some more tests to lose? Number one. He glared back at her, but if his outrage affected her at all, she didn't show it on her face. I didn't lose shit. And I'm still going to be the number one hero, round cheeks. Just not the number one today. Tsuyu nodded. I think Aizawa's starting to call people for the ball throw, Midoriya. Wanna go watch? Maybe we'll see someone throw farther than Bakugo, Karo. Midoriya cautiously nodded, afraid to agree with a jab being thrown Kacchin's way but eager to see more quirks in action. Just then, a small group of students approached them, Kirishima, Kaminari, Tsubaraba, Shiro, Setsuna, and Maeda, if he recalled correctly. Hey, is Bakugo bothering you guys? Sorry about that. Kirishima cheerily greeted. Midoriya, right? I saw your score on the grip strength test. Super manly of you. Yeah, short fuse here can be a bit of a handful, but he's all bark and no bite. Setsuna joked, Kaminari and Shiro chuckling along. You talk about him like he's a dog. Uriarika noted. Well, he is a bit of a bitch. Tsubaraba replied affably. Maybe he hasn't eaten yet? Maeda offered. The group shared a round of whoops and high fives amongst each other as Bakugo pinched the bridge of his nose, voice shaking with frustration. I fucking hate you fucks. I think I saw a dog online who they taught sign and it knew more words than Bakugo. Shiro jibed, earning another pained groan from Bakugo. Who knew to beat the number one hero you just had to annoy him to death? Uriarika mused. Why hasn't anyone tried this with All Might? Are they stupid? She and the others, including a now-watching Pony, Shinso, and Ida made to leave, but before they could make a clean escape Bakugo lunged out and grabbed Izuku's shoulder. The greenette froze. We're not done here, Deku, he growled, staying for a moment before releasing his hand and turning back to his pack of followers to cuss them out. Midoriya stood in place, stock still. You all good, Izuku? Pony asked. He flinched and touched his shoulder, before bringing it away with a look of confusion. Wowya. All good. Let's head over to the pitch. The six made their way over as a disappointed Bondo walked away from the white circle and Aizawa called Shota over to make the next throw. Some movement caught Midoriya's eye, which he glanced over to see was Toga's waving, as she bounded over with Shuji and the mushroom girl, Komori, in tow. Aizakuin. Buckin. Tsuchan. She skidded in the dirt and righted herself with a twist. Now everyone's in one place. In one place? Shinso raised an eyebrow. Toga's fanged grin grew wider. Up. Every one of my favorite people. Aizakuin, Akin, Tsuchan, and Mizokuin. How is it that no Shuji-kun anyhow, Toga-san? Ida asked. Does it have anything to do with how you're able to transform into him? Oh, we met during the entrance exam. She collapsed her hands together, staring doe-eyed up at him, an effect that would have been more effective if she hadn't possessed the slitted pupils of a predator. He was a true hero to me, you know? Plucked me out of some rubble made by the robots. He helped me finish the exam, and we met again when I got to dorms. Is there a reason why you've only transformed into Shuji-kun so far? Midoriya continued the line of questioning. The ball toss is next, and it would make much more sense to copy someone like Bakugo or Uriarika for that one. Oh, I can't use the quirks of people I transform into. But Shuji-kun is a heteromorph, so I can use his, 'cause it can't be turned on and off like the others can. Are you sure? Your quirk already has the potential to become a top underground hero. If you could copy someone's quirk too, you could be in the top 3. You could even be number 1 if All Might ever retires. Midoriya's hand twitched again, and Toga's eyes drifted to it before she covertly dug her fingers into her own palms and wrenched her gaze back up to him. Depending on how your quirk works and if you can stock or store transformations for a while, you could be unstoppable. Midoriya continued on. Imagine a hero who could turn into All Might, Endeavor, Best Jeanist, Edge-Shot, Hawks, Mirko, Gang Orca, the Pussycats, Aizawa-sensei. You could have the best possible quirk matchup in every battle and disaster. You could be a force multiplier and perfect support to any other hero in the field. If somebody got injured, you could replace them in a fight or rescue so their quirk doesn't go unused. 𝗕𝗵𝗯𝗹𝗵𝘆, she trailed off softly. A hero's quirk, th. She dug her nails into her palm again and turned back to him with a sly grin. All this praise would make any girl swoon, Izuku-kun. Don't give me too much attention now. Akin and Tsuchan might get all jealous. I mean their quirks are amazing too. He turned to Ochako. Your zero gravity is an excellent dual-purpose combat and rescue quirk. Clearing debris and making makeshift weapons would be trivial with you. Removing the gravity of any opponent who can't fly or tether themselves to the floor would guarantee an instant win with no need for any violence. And not to mention the infiltration applications of sneaking without needing conventional routes and without the sound of footsteps. You could clear hordes of villains by just pushing them away, or grab an opponent and slam them into the ceiling. You should study martial arts. If you removed someone's gravity and slammed them onto the ground at full force, you could defeat them instantly because the force applied to them would be massive. You could be the highest profile rescue hero and break the top 10 overall. He whipped his head over to Tsu, his muttering spree continuing unopposed. And yours is almost perfectly designed for combat. You have incredibly strong legs and a veritable fifth limb with your tongue. You can hop fast, stick to walls for stealth or mobility to reach areas others can't. Depending on what abilities you have as a frog heteromorph, you could produce acid, use camouflage, like an assassin. What I've seen of your strength during these exercises shows me you could probably crumble concrete and crumple steel with a kick. With practice you could probably leap over smaller buildings considering frogs can jump many times their own body size. And that's not even mentioning underwater capabilities. You could probably be the best aquatic hero in Japan and in the top 10 overall too. Uraraka's face had now gone scarlet as she listened to Midoriya finish his gushing about Tsu's quirk, the froggy verdette now sporting a red tint on her cheeks as well. Midoriya watched the two blankly for a moment before his face erupted in a crimson blush of his own. Toga staggered back at its intensity. He floundered, trying to think of something to say to fill the awkward silence. Sparing a desperate glance at everyone else, he saw no sympathy. Pony looked amused, Toga delighted, Komori smiled wryly, Shinso indifferent, Ida's face unemotive as the light bounced off of his glasses, casting a bright white sheen over them and obscuring his eyes. They were all content to let him die in the pit he'd dug, the traitors. Midoriya, you're up. He jogged over to Aizawa enthusiastically, eager to escape the situation, and accepted the offered softball, walking into the white circle. Timing everything out, he reared up to throw. Balance it on my hand, one finger raised ever so slightly, so that when I release, as he spun on a foot and whirled his hand forward, the world seemed to move in slow motion. The ball travels on the tip of my finger, before red veins erupted along his finger, as he scrunched his eyes closed and yelled at the top of his lungs. Smash! With a deafening blow, the ball blasted through the air, wind rushing across the court as the ball burst through the air around it, disappearing into the sky. With two fingers shattered on the same hand, agony renewed, Midoriya turned towards Aizawa. How did I do? He held up the tablet. 710.3 meters. Good job, but stop quoting All Might. Returning from the pitch with Aizawa's helpful advice, Midoriya followed Uraraka, Tsu, Toga, Ida, Shuji, Komori, Pony, and Shinso to the side to do the seated toe touch and sit-ups, exercises much less applicable to quirks and thus mostly relegated to the sideshow. Midoriya, Ida, Shuji, and Tsu gave strong showings for the sit-ups, with Toga, Uraraka, and Pony decent as well, while Shinso and Komori watched on from the sidelines while huffing and clutching at their pained abdomens in shame. As for the 𝗬𝗪𝗏, Toga and Tsuyu were the only real standouts, displaying some insane flexibility. Komori and Midoriya made do, mostly due to being short, as did Uraraka, much to her own chagrin. Shuji and Shirnu were particularly embarrassed at their own lacking flexibility. Having finished early and waiting for everyone to finish their other exercises for the final, Midoriya sat on the ground to recuperate, cradling the arm his injured fingers were attached to. He watched as Yaoyorozu displayed her quirk's true power with the ball toss, is that a cannon? And dominated with over a kilometer's distance, to the angry growling of Bakugo. Aoyama secured a surprisingly high score there as well by blasting the ball into the sky, as did Kodai by simply shrinking it. Shiozaki's vines webbed together to construct something resembling a comically oversized spoon and hucked the ball like a catapult. Pony rushed over from where they were all sitting to spear the ball onto one of her horns and fly it away until it left her range of control and dropped like a stone. Koda, the shy rock-faced boy, summoned a flock of birds to carry his own ball far, and Yanagi simply hurled it as far as she could using her telekinesis. More surprising to Midoriya were the few odd ways some excelled at the toe touch. Shiozaki used her vines and called it a day, then performed the touch with her hands as well to particular success. Jairu simply used her jacks, reasoning they counted as a limb. Setsuna, to nobody's surprise, just detached a hand to do the job for her. Some simply excelled without any quirk at all. She's got a gymnast training, Toga pointed out, watching Ishido contort herself in front of a presumably laughing Hagakure. How'd you tell? Komori questioned. My parents used to want me to be one, Toga answered, and she said nothing more on the matter. Eventually, the last person was called up for the ball toss, Kaminari, who insisted he had something fucking awesome's planned before he tried the same trick on the ball as he did the long jump, which just resulted in a lecturing on time wasting from Aizawa. He threw the ball normally and that was that. Last exercise, everyone over here. Distance running. I expect all of you to run in an orderly formation until you're unable to. If you slow down too much, you will be called out. Aizawa grumbled from behind his scarf. 40 students lined up and he raised a whistle to his mouth. Tweet. Compared to running with all might, this was a breeze. Midoriya kept up speed as students began to drop out, first the physically less toned. Aoyama, Maeda, Shinso, Manga, Manami, Yanagi, Intelli, Komori, Jairu, Kaminari, Kodai. Next, those who'd been running more but not at the same level as others, Minoma, Josei, Hananuki, Siro, Shiozaki, Tsubaraba, Tokoyami, Kami, Tsu, Kurwaro, Koda, Toga. After them, people from the well and truly physically fit began to drop off one after the other. Kirishima, Kendo, Shuji, Pony, not nearly as fit as the others but carried by her horse traits Bondo, Todoroki, Ishido, Kamakiri, Hatsum, Bakugo, Hagakure, and somewhere in the upper ends of that pack, Midoriya. Inevitably, all 39 of them stood by the side of the track as they watched Yaoyorozu continue to do loops in an electric scooter, the suffering Pony, Midoriya and Ida being given water by the now-rested Uraraka, Komori, Tsuyu, Toga, Shuji, and Shinso. After a few more loops around the track, Aizawa chalked her score up to a few more hours before the battery ran out and called it a day. It'd be a waste of time to lay out these scores verbally, so I'll just reveal them all at once. Aizawa declared as a robotic screen on treads trundled over to his side. He tapped at his tablet, translating the overall results to the screen. Momo Yaoyorozu, Todoroki Shoto, Bakugo Katsuki, Shiozaki Ibra, Minoma Nito, Ida Tenya, Fukudashi Manga, Toga Himiko, Shujimizo, Tokoyami Fumikichi, Josei Ippan, Tokage Setsuna, Tsunatori Pony, Uraraka Chogo, Ishido Mina, Kendo Itsuka, Ashutsu, Shinso Hitoshi, Hananuki Juzo, Fuwa Maeda, Tsubaraba Kozia, Midoriya Izuku, Kirishima Iger, Hatsume, Hagakure, Kawaru Kodakuji, Kamakiri Tager, Bondo Kojiro, Komori Kinoko, Yanagi Reiko, Shota Nairenjiki, Kodayu, Ryuma Yuga, Siro Hanta, Jirakyuka, Utsushimi Kami, Kaminari Denki, Intelli Psycho, 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗶𝗍𝗃 Kaminari 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗲 𝗔𝗨𝗧𝗛𝗡 𝗕𝗁𝙢𝙢𝗢. Each name he dropped flinched at the attention. Had I been your sole homeroom teacher this year, I'd have the authority to expel all 10 of you on the spot. They collectively gulped. Despite that, I managed to sense a shred of potential in each of you. Be warned. Just because I cannot expel you does not mean you are safe. In fact, it's more logical for me to give you more attention than the rest of your classmates. Welcome to hell. He clicked a button, turning the screen off. That's it for now. I need to compile these results and talk to a certain oaf. Head back to your building. I'm sure Kiyama's got some sort of exciting team-building exercise for you all to participate in. The woman in question, who'd mostly been standing on the side and letting Aizawa have his fun, stepped in. Usually those are called orgies. Back to the dorms, everyone. I've got a few more announcements to make. We'll be stopping by Recovery Girl's office on the way there, Midoriya Izuku. The two groaned in relief. Surely she's not serious, right? Ida held the haunted expression of a war veteran. Shuji patted his shoulder comfortingly. No, I don't think she is. Recovery Girl 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗧. Congratulations, Midoriya-kun. You've graduated from breaking limbs to breaking fingers. Perhaps by the time you graduate you'll have settled for mild fractures or dislocation. The boy cringed under her stern gaze, the elderly woman's presence somehow taking up more of the room than all mites could. Perhaps I should stock up on casts before I wear out my lips? Midoriya's face scrunched at that last droll comment. It's only been twice. She conked him painfully on the shin with her cane. In a 15-minute entrance exam you shattered 3 limbs and on your first day back you shattered 2 fingers. I'm beginning to see a pattern I don't like and I don't want to see you here tomorrow. Aren't the fingers an improvement from the entrance exam? Don't give me cheek, boy. Any medical practitioner will tell you how important a fully functioning hand is. She responded, rolling her eyes behind her visor. Run along now and find a way to get that strength of yours under control. Ask a friend, maybe? She waved him off, shooing him out with a packet of gummies and a burning glare. Turning the corner from her office, Midoriya was surprised to see his group hanging back. Shinso, leaning against the wall with a leg pushed up, notified the others with a shake of his head. The rest brightened, except Shuji, he thinks? Kinda hard to tell with the mask, but he doesn't look unhappy. Deku-kun. Uraraka ran up to him, smiling brightly. Midnight Sensei has everyone in the common room right now. Now that you're here, we can head over. The small group turned, starting down the hall in the direction of the dorms. Oh yeah. By the way, Dekun, was your name Deku or Izuku? Uraraka questioned as she fell into lockstep beside Midoriya alongside Tsuyu. You called yourself Izuku during the introductions, but that Bakugo keeps calling you Deku, right? I was wondering that, Karo. Tsuyu agreed. Is it your nickname? Midoriya scratched the back of his neck, uncomfortable all of a sudden. No. That's just what Kachin calls me. It's a childhood nickname. It's short for Dekunabu. You know, W wooden doll? It means you useless. Because IW was quirkless. Thought I was quirkless? Tsuyu's eyes widened, a trace of bitterness entering her voice. That's awful. Uraraka, you should probably stop using it. Uraraka's face dropped. I'm so sorry, Midoriya-kun. Frantically shaking her hands, she receded back as the other two turned to look back at her. I didn't know. I thought it meant 𝗕𝗁𝙢𝗢𝗢𝗢, like it was inspirational. Like you can do it. Because you saved me during the entrance exam, and you said all that nice stuff about my quirk, and you tried so hard in the tests just now even if you just got your quirk. I'll stop using it. Tsuyu vocalized. Never mind, that's really sweet, Karo. Full-facedly blushing, Midoriya fixed his eyes on the floor and toyed with his hands. That's really. You can keep using Deku. Really? Uraraka's own head whipped back before she reached around the boy and wrapped him in a full-force bear hug. Darn, she offhandedly thought. It just feels... Wanna keep holding it? You're the best, Dekun. I won't let anyone call you useless again, why here? He nodded into her arm, and she pulled back, cheeks pink as always. Tsuyu, watching the two, ribbited smugly. I see what's going on here. WW, what do you mean? 𝗬𝗧𝗧𝗃 stuttered, Midoriya still blushing but looking at her curiously. What are you talking about, Azui-san? She paused for a moment, letting dread sink its claws into 𝗬𝗧𝗃's heart, before the corners of her froggy mouth curled upwards. Isn't it obvious? You're in love with Midoriya's determination, right? For a split second, 𝗬𝗧𝗃 looked like she died on the spot before her soul re-entered her body. Oh yeah. How'd you guess? Yeah. I want to be a hero like you, Deku-kun. Midoriya shrank a little under the praise, deflecting. WWOW, 𝗬𝗧𝗃-san. That means a lot. Why, you're pretty cool too though. You saved my life in the exam. He glanced back up, taking another look at the gravity girl. She looked new, like he'd never seen her up close until now. Framed by the hazy orange sun shining through the windows as it set, the auburn hair seemed to glow an almost peach color, the rest of her face shadowed yet still shining brightly, kind eyes framed by cute lashes and pink cheeks dark on her face. Before she was cute, but now. She's so beautiful. Unbeknownst to him, 𝗬𝗧𝗃 was well aware of his focused gaze, blushing shyly as the verdette boy seemed lost in thought, studying her. Tsuyu gave a knowing chuckle. And no problem. 𝗬𝗧𝗃 stammered out. Hey, Deku-kun, Tsu-chan, do you guys want to be friends? Aren't we already? The frog girl replied, though looking no less happy than Midoriya. Well, perhaps a little less happy, considering the boy was holding back tears. Why, you guys really want to be friends with me? You seem like a good guy, Midoriya-kun. You too, 𝗬𝗧𝗃-san. I'd be happy to be friends with both of you, Karo. No need to cry. You just want to be friends with Deku-kun cause of the waterworks, huh? The amphibian girl shrugged, her shiny green hair bobbing on her back. Guilty as charged, Karo. Let's catch up with the others and get to the common area. The 8 of them, now back into their proper UA uniforms after popping by the changing rooms, walked back into the common area to the sight of everyone else lounging around in small groups. Bakugo appeared to be getting hounded by all of his new followers for something or other, Kendo talking respectfully with Shota and Aoyama, and a generally lackadaisical atmosphere pervading the room. Noticing them as they pushed the door open, Midnight threw them a smile before raising her bullwhip and cracking it downwards, silencing them all. Good to see a little discipline. She nodded approvingly. Fun as it is when it's wild. I prefer you all tamed. She conjured up a stack of itineraries. Could somebody help me pass these out? Ida's hand shot into the air with a crack almost as loud as the dominatrix's whip, but Midnight turned to Yanagi, who had also volunteered, instead. Thanks, Yanagi. A pink glow surrounded the stack as the papers levitated towards everybody, splitting apart in the air and settling down on couches and tables. Such is the burden of responsibility. She lamented. You'll live, Yanagi. Midnight quipped. Now, these itineraries contain the weekly schedule of your classrooms, gym open times and etiquette, kitchen open times, and other relevant information to your classes for the rest of term, as well as the way you'll be maintaining these dorms. This isn't my bedroom and I'm not your mother, so I don't expect to have to take charge of everything. You're all grown adults now. Tonight, we will be having dinner at 6:30, giving you about 2 hours to hang around and have fun amongst yourselves. Dinner times won't be strictly scheduled after tonight, but I think it's beneficial for you all to eat together. Gesturing towards the kitchen, she pulled out an empty schedule. That means you're all responsible for stocking the shelves and cooking your own meals in the kitchen. Usually, students tend to find whoever can cook to do it while they take care of everything else, though you all should honestly know how to cook by now. Any volunteers for cooks? Oh, I can cook all sorts of shroomtastic dishes. Komori exclaimed, running up to grab the form and note her name down. 𝗕𝗁𝗓 figures an extra like you would only know one ingredient. Bakugo snatched the form from her hands and roughly scribbled his name down too. I didn't know you can cook, Kachin. Kirishima praised. A vein appeared on Bakugo's forehead. Don't fucking call me that, shitty hair, or I'll fucking poison your food. I can cook too. Midoriya walked up and jotted himself down. I always help my mom make dinner, she has a lot of work some nights. 𝗬𝗧𝗃 walked up beside him to join, as did Tsuyu. Same with me, but I don't know that many recipes. That's fine, Karo. Tsuyu reassured, a hand on her shoulder. I take care of my siblings a lot, so I know a lot of cooking. Oh, we all know how to cook. Midoriya noticed. Do you guys know how to make katsudon? Uraraka shook her head, though Tsuyu nodded emphatically. 𝗵𝗲𝗏 can't get enough of it, Karo. I miss him already. Maybe I should make it sometime. She made to continue before a pair of pale arms draped around her shoulders over her chest. She froze. I'd love to try some of your cooking, Tsuchin, Toga cooed into her ear. A shiver ran down her spine, weak prey instincts rearing from deep within her subconscious. The predator in question chuckled, before detaching herself to scribble her name onto the form with surprisingly neat penmanship. I actually know how to cook too. My mother made sure I began learning it as a kid, said it's useful for my future. Lifting her pen off the last letter with an exaggerated stroke, she turned on her heel and back to the three. Isn't this cool? Now we all know how to cook. Maybe you can teach me some recipes? Offered Uraraka, extending an olive branch. Toga squealed happily and attached herself to the brunette's side. Minoma walked up to the sheet and jotted his name down too, accompanied by Shota. It would be an embarrassment if I couldn't. Honestly, what kind of hero can't even feed themselves? Shota rolled his eyes. Don't be rude. I can teach anyone who can't if they want to learn. It is pretty useful. A shadow appeared over him, and the stocky boy glanced up before offering the paper. A pointed hand carefully gripped it, the base of Josiah's palm almost covering its entire width. I know some cooking too. I had to take turns to cook in my old foster house. Forgoing the tiny pen for her own, she clumsily scrawled her name on the sheet, before handing it to Shiozaki. You mentioned you could cook too, right? Indeed. Shiozaki quickly and elegantly signed on the paper. I have enjoyed gardening from a young age. Surrounding myself with God's creations and harvesting His bounty has always yielded a certain satisfaction for me when saying grace before a meal. I intend to start a garden here as well if anybody would like to join. I'll join Shroom. Komori's usual shyness gave way to excitement as she pumped a fist. Shiozaki frowned. It will be a vegetable garden, not a mushroom garden, she dissuaded, but Komori remained resolute. We can have a little mushroom section, right? I'll help you with your veggies too. The Christian girl, though not elated at the thought of the fungal girl having reign over a section of her garden, was tempted by the idea of company. Very well, she conceded. Finally, Shuji picked up a pen and put himself down on the list wordlessly, as did Koda. Midnight took it back, giving it a once-over. Who wants to cook tonight? Komori, Shuji, and Minoma raised their hands and were picked. With a clap of her hands, Midnight dismissed everyone else and opened her mouth before Ashido raised a hand to interrupt. Handing attention over to the pink-skinned girl, Ashido climbed and stood on top of a sofa. Everyone, this is super important, so listen up. Hagakure climbed up and stood beside her. Whoever's a romantic at heart, follow me to meet up in my room. Everyone groaned, Bakugo cursing under his breath and the edgelord trio all scoffing. I'm going upstairs to pray for all of you, Shiozaki mumbled, leaving the room. We also must confer with the rest of you for a moment, Tokoyami announced. All eyes directed themselves to the bird-headed boy, Kuwaro, and Yanagi, all of whom were holding kitchen knives. Kuwaro nodded, pointing his own knife to his pitch-black palm. The three of us convened during the apprehension examinations and decided to engage in ritualistic blood swapping to seal our infernal rivalry. Without further ado, the three of them slit their palms, crimson seeping out of the shallow cuts as they all cringed, stabbing pain thrusting itself down their palms. Kuwaro shook Yanagi's pale hand, before Yanagi shook Tokoyami's, and finally Tokoyami Kuwaro's. Thus it is done. Yanagi concluded gloomily. Everybody blinked. I'm gonna leave. A pale toga mumbled, quickly departing. Shit. Motherfucker. One spiky-haired blonde stood outside of the Heights Alliance gym, the door of which was currently padlocked with a little note doodled above. On it, a cartoony version of Midnight stood beside bondage rig, adorned with the text, "No using the machines today." Grumbling, he turned to stomp to his room and grab his weights instead, before stopping in his tracks. Following after him stood the fucking clowns who'd been following him all day. What do you want? He grumbled. I'm going to my fucking room to exercise until dinner. Don't follow me. We want to be friends, bro. I love the dedication. Do you want to work out together? Kirishima offered a sturdy arm to the blonde, waiting for him to shake it. He'd already done this 10 times today, to the same result. Making it 11, Bakugo slapped it aside. How many times before I get it in your fucking head? I don't hang around with extras. I'm gonna be the best, you hear me? What are you talking about, man? The hell's an extra anyway? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 pressed, frowning. TCH, Bakugo TCH edition extras. Background characters who can't do shit for shit? Kaminari frowned. Hey, we're not extras. Come on. Lightning's a pretty cool quirk and I'm a cool guy. I'm 2 parts spunk and 1 part hunk, right ladies? Nah, Setsuna replied. Nah, 𝗵𝗲 replied. Nah, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 replied. Didn't even ask you. Kaminari grumbled. Still, lighten up, man. Bakugo stuffed his hands in his pockets and grunted, striding past the group and shoulder-checking Kaminari. Stay out of my way. I'm aiming for the fucking top, and I don't need you fucking barnacles clinging to me when I get there. Kirishima crossed his toned arms, chuckling. You're aiming for the top? Then I challenge you to an arm wrestle. Bakugo paused before turning around. I don't waste time on 2-bit extras. Then let's make it worth your while. Setsuna grinned deviously. She held up 2 hands. If you win, we'll leave you alone. You'll never hear from us again. Her left hand detached, pivoting around to face the ceiling. If one of us wins, you have to stop whining about us for the rest of the day. Deal? Bakugo grabbed one of her hands and shook it, before tossing it over his shoulder. Kirishima smirked. The group of 7 found a bunch nearby, Kirishima and Bakugo sitting down on either side and placing their elbows onto the seat. Best of 3. Kirishima offered. His opponent scoffed. I play to win. The redhead shrugged. Don't say I didn't warn you. 3. Setsuna yelled, a hand floating between the 2, 3 fingers on it. 1 popped off and flew away. 2. Another followed suit. 1. The last popped off, and her palm shot away. Go! Immediately the 2's forearms tensed as they pressed each other's, grunting and straining to gain even a centimeter. Sweat rolled down Bakugo's brow and into his mouth, tasting like caramel. For a while, both shook where they sat, everyone watching and chanting 𝗕𝗁 in unison. Then the tide shifted. Kirishima, gritting his teeth, began to push forward steadily, not letting Bakugo gain at all. Both their arms shook, Kirishima letting out small breaths as he managed to budge Bakugo millimeter by millimeter, slowly and steadily, until with a sudden slam Bakugo's arm hit the bench and he whipped it back towards his chest, cursing loudly. Hell yeah! Cheered 𝗧𝗵𝗲 as everyone else clapped and hooped. Kirishima chuckled again, offering a handshake to Bakugo which was promptly ignored. No hard feelings, that was the best match I've had in a while. Bakugo stood and made to leave before pink, hazy fog appeared beneath him and 𝗵𝗲 teleported him right back in front of Kirishima. Deal's a deal. No more ignoring us, Kaminari declared, draping an arm around Bakugo's left shoulder as Kirishima draped his own over Bakugo's right. I fucking hate all of you, he grumbled. Setsuna put a hand on her hips, wagging a finger. Ah, no more whining now. Them's the rules. You a man of your word. The blonde fumed silently in response. Hey, if extras means like background characters, like on TV, 𝗵𝗲 observed from behind. Isn't Blasty here at 𝗧𝗪𝗏? Bakugo somehow fumed silently louder. Order, order. Mina ordered, slamming her hand down onto the pillow on her lap. Henceforth I call the first session of the Matchmaker Society to order. As head queen and tyrant and dictator for life, I call upon Secretary General and Court Stenographer 𝗬𝗪𝗓 to utter our oath and declare our mission. Within Mina's garish room, pink and stripy decor tainting the walls with its harsh hues and forceful patterns, sat the 5 chief initiates of the society, Mina, 𝗬𝗪𝗓, Manami, Toga, and Kodai. Hear, hear. 𝗬𝗪𝗓 chimed, picking up a pink, glittery notebook which had a heart roughly stenciled into it. I do declare the goal of this secret society to foster the growth and spread of romance upon Hero Class 1, to encourage love in all its shapes and forms, without discrimination for identity or orientation, and to record all and match all so one day we of the Matchmaker Society can stand beside those in question at the altar and go, I told you so. All this and more to come. 𝗵𝗃 raised a hand. If this is a secret society, why did you announce it to everyone in the common area? 𝗬𝗪𝗀 pointed a sleeve at the pig-tailed redhead. You speak out of turn, initiate 𝗧𝗵𝗲. To bring an issue to the floor, you must first petition either myself or head queen and tyrant and dictator for life 𝗧𝗑𝗪𝗍. Nobody's gonna ever do that. Toga pointed out. Kodai agreed. 𝗬𝗪𝗀 slumped, turning to Mina, who shrugged. She's kinda right. Whatever. 𝗬𝗪𝗀 scoffed. We're missing the important bit, the flavor of life, our spice mélange romance. If you're here, then you must be fellow romantics, captivated by the matters of the heart. Kodai corrected. I prefer bodies. Then I call forth the first order of business. Mina jumped in, leaning over a fluffy pillow she'd pulled to her chest. Before we can thread the strings of love together across UA, we must first untangle the knotted messes in our hearts. So, her hand wandered across the three initiates, finger pointed out accusingly. Spill. Who are you crushing on? Nobody. Kodai mumbled. 𝗵𝗃 added. Mizokuin, Izukuin, Tsuchan, and Akin. Toga jumped excitedly, fangs peeking out from under her lips as she smiled broadly, enraptured by thoughts of her crushes. Mizokuin's kind heart and strong arms and delicious blood. Izukuin's bruised finger and fluffy hair and love for everyone's quirks. Tsuchan's wide eyes and dry wit. Akin's blushy pink cheeks and cute squeaks. She hugged herself as her wild blush spread across her face, giggling lowly. I love 'em all so much. Damn girl, hoot hoot. Mina cheered, shuffling over her shaggy carpet to come face to face with the blonde. Dropping the L-bomb so soon, eh? What's the plan? I can be patient. Toga replied. Kodai snorted. What? The blonde asked irritably. No offense, girl, but you do not give patient vibes. 𝗬𝗪𝗀 leaned back on her elbows. You were all over Tsu earlier, and I saw you kissing Midoriya's hand before. You didn't. Mina put her hands over her mouth. I didn't. Toga echoed. You weren't there, I was just giving him Quirk advice. Mina raised an eyebrow, but Toga steadfastly continued. In any case, there's stuff they don't know about me and I can't do it now. You mean your Quirk? Kodai dryly asked. Toga's eyes went wide, but 𝗵𝗃 held up placating hands. We won't pry, though it did look really cool, but it is that, isn't it? Dejectedly, Toga slowly nodded. Mina crawled over, giving her a surprise hug. Toga flinched, before sinking into the warmth and letting out a low, barely audible sound. I'm sure Midori isn't gonna judge you for that. And anyway, that's not important. She whipped around to the other two, her kind look replaced with an accusatory gleam. What's important is you too. Bowring. Come on, no crushes? Not in the cards for me. 𝗵𝗃 shrugged. Are you aromantic? 𝗬𝗪𝗀 inquired. 'Cause if you are, not sure why'd you join a Matchmaker Society. The pint-sized girl shook her head. It's not that. It's my Quirk. Toga gazed at her, curiosity shimmering in those yellow-slitted eyes, but made no move. You don't have to dash, Toga began, before quieting down as 𝗵𝗃 held up a hand. My Quirk, it's called love. It lets me give somebody a huge power-up if I love them and I say it. Her eyes, already surrounded by black rings, shadowed as she ducked her head in shame. There's a side effect too. I fall in love too easily. Way too easily. I confessed to like 30 classmates during the last year of middle school. Everyone thought I was creepy, or just wanted to use M for my Quirk. She looked back at the four surrounding her on the carpet, pain and fire dueling in her eyes. I was a shut-in for a while after in high school, before I found a hero tuber called Gentle Criminal who inspired me to turn my life around. Gentle Criminal? 𝗬𝗪𝗀 asked. Like a villain? He's more of a performer. 𝗵𝗃 dismissed with a hand wave. Point is, I don't want to make the same mistakes here. So it's not in the cards for me. I dunno if that's the healthiest mindset. A concerned Mina intoned. Everyone here seems chill. Kodai shook her head, giving her a negative Bakugo-kun, Monomakun, Kamakiri-kun, Intelli-san, Ida-kun. The Revent listed. Hey, Ida-kun seems alright. Toga defended. Kodai nodded. Got no chill though. Toga conceded on that point. What about you two? Minami asked. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 chuckled. Nobody for me yet. I dunno if I could fall in love that quick. I'd want something slow, all romantic, like a movie, you know? The works. She threw her hands out, gesturing broadly. No one for me either. Mina moaned. You know who I do know we could get together though? Spill. Minami shouted, two fists clutched in front of her chest. Mina chuckled theatrically. Well, when we were at the P grounds, a little birdie told me me. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 interjected. That Jiryu and Yaoyorozu got a little chemistry going on, she smoothly finished, throwing up jazz hands. Get it? Chemistry? 'Cause her quirk can make shit. Anyway, I think I saw a delicate little seed of something special growing there, and by God I'm gonna water it, till it grows into something beautiful. Motion is second pairing. Toga raised a hand, smirking. I think it would be really funny if we got Bakugo-kun and Kirishima-kun together. Holy shit, that's brilliant. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 exclaimed. It's like the cheery one and the grumpy one, that's such a great dynamic. We have to get them together. We don't have an in though. Toga reluctantly admitted. You're friends with Yaoyorozu-san and Jiryu-san, but Bakugo's a bitch to Izuku-kun. He won't go along with us. I don't see it anyways. Minami argued, shaking her head. They're incompatible, it won't work. They're just too different. That's exactly why it works. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 objected. You think Bakugo would work with someone like him? Like Monomakun? Or Kamakiri-kun? They hate each other's guts. Yeah. They got more beef than Mount Lady and Midnight. Mina exclaimed. Kodai mumbled in agreement. Mina airbanged an air gavel. Let's put a pin in that for now, since it's not actionable. We an in, which means we need connections. If we get Jiryu with Yaoyorozu, she'll owe us a favor. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 mused. Using that connection we could recruit Kaminari to our side. I think they're friends. That would net us 0-2. I'll explore the Setsuna connection. Mina added. Moada too, I think she could be swayed. But back to Jiryu and Yaoyorozu. Listen, they belong together. They're like soulmates. I swear I think they were making goo-goo eyes at each other. If one of them fucks it up and gets with someone else, it'll break my poor little heart. Mina posed dramatically, clenching a fist in mock heartbreak. In other words, they cute. We should also get Izuku-kun, Akin, and Tsuchan together. Toga cheered. They totally belong together, and it'll help Izuku-kun's confidence. Then those are your two's pet projects, huh? Minami turned to 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲, who was scribbling away in her notebook. Noted and noted. The invisible girl twirled her pen in her hands. If anyone notices any more cute couples to be before our next official meeting, report 'em to me, K? Kodai agreed. The quiet Ravenet raised a hand. Question. Your question, good miss? Mina inquired. If I think someone's hot, does it count as a romantic crush? Nah, but I'm interested anyway. Who is it? The pink girl studied her peer, whose face was totally blank. If Kodai gambled, she'd probably be banned from Vegas for her impeccable poker face. I think Shizuki-san's eyes are pretty and her face is nice, and I want to kiss all over it until her lips are swollen and her neck is red and she can't breathe or stand or speak and only cry for more. Kodai continued blandly. I also want to see what her vines can dash. Whoa, hey. Mina cut her off. Out of pocket, where's this coming from? Kodai shrugged. Just a passing thought. She replied honestly. If it helps, I also thought about Midnight Sensei and Aizawa Sensei and Todoroki-kun and Yaoyorozu-san and Kami-san and Reiko-san and Hananuki-kun and Bakugo-kun and Tokoyami-kun and Kirishima-kun and Shinsu-kun and Shuji-kun and Mawada-san and Hatsum-san and Tokage-san and Intelli-san and Yu and Kendo-san and dash. Wait, Ashido cried, Kodai looking slightly irked at being interrupted. I wasn't finished. And Midoriya-kun and 𝗬𝗓 and 𝗧𝗏-kun and 𝗎𝑪𝗏-san and dash. You gonna stop her from pissing on your hydrant? Manami turned to Toga, who shook her head. She's got good taste, she replied simply. Ahem. We should call this first meeting to a close. I'm making a note here. Huge success. Mina interjected, blushing purple and unable to meet Kodai's eyes, which was fine because Kodai's eyes weren't on her own anyhow. As the court cartographer 𝗕𝗁𝗎𝗄 began. Stenographer? Toga corrected. Right, stenographer, I have noted the following. Projects Punk Rock Princess and Green Tea with Lime are a go. Project Explosive Excavation is on hold. Any objections? Nay. Mina voiced. Nah, Manami echoed. Kodai agreed. Nope. Toga chirped. Then it is done. 𝗕𝗁𝗎𝗄 finished recording the vote in her notebook. Meeting adjourned. Monoma clapped his hands together, standing up straight and tall as he watched Komori and Shuji rifle through the cabinets. Excellent. Now you do. We must make sure tonight's dinner is one of notable import. I've devised the perfect plan, a 3-course extravaganza that shall be a sumptuous feast, one worthy of this class that dash. Who made you the leader, shroom? Komori grumbled with irritation lacing her voice. I still haven't forgotten that mean trick you pulled on Pony-chan. You think I'm gonna listen to you, shroom? The pompous blonde was taken aback for a moment, before he rolled his eyes and scoffed. Placing a hand to his chest, he spoke with bombast, as if giving his last great performance. What nonsense! I am a natural-born leader, and all I've done is try to uplift this class. An eye sprouted from one of Shuji's arms to look back at the two as he continued to search the cabinets, placing boxes and cans on the countertop. Another formed on the arm beneath it. All you've done is put us down. With heteromorphobic insults, at that. Monoma gasped at the audacity of the accusation. Well, I didn't mean it like that. What did you mean it like, shroom? Komori turned back to pursue the different packages of mushrooms in one of the fridges. You act all moralistic but Amanita more than nice words to believe you. Shuji placed a tin of spinach and a tub of cream on the countertop. We could make Western. Some sort of creamy pasta? Monoma, could you check the spice drawer? Monoma searched through a few to find the drawer in question, glass jars rolling around inside. Oregano and parsley would work best, he decided, taking out 2 canisters of the dried herbs. Even if fresh would be better. And I'm simply offering an alternative encouragement. How will our class improve if nobody holds us accountable? Komori stashed a handful of white mushrooms away. We should make mushroom pasta. I know which shrooms we want to use here. Pass the cream, Shuji-kun? Shuji passed the cream in a pot. As Monoma sorted a few packets of dried pasta, Shuji spoke up again. Don't we already have the teachers for that? Monoma sniffed. What's the point of the class rep position then? I'm gunning for it, you know. We deserve nothing better. Now that's just harsh, shroom. Komori snarked. Shuji chuckled. I'm going to run for the same position, you know? Word of advice, Monoma-kun, you'll do better if people like you. People will recognize my qualities of leadership. A class is like a ship, and it needs a strong-willed captain to steer it. Shuji gave a solitary, humorless chuckle. You don't know how weak you truly are, Monoma-kun. Pass the knives, I'll take care of chopping the onions. He picked up 2 knives and set to work chopping 2 onions at once with 4 of his 6 arms, dispelling and regenerating new eyes whenever they began to tear up. Monoma scoffed. Haven't heard that one before. Heteromorph calling the midder weak, tale as old as time. Shuji stilled. What? The blonde continued to scowl as he measured out parmesan and herbs. Didn't hear me? Weak old Monoma with his weak old copy quirk, gonna get ground to a paste by the first villain he can't copy. He waved a hand with pomp as he peeled garlic with the other. Oh, that's right, I can't copy heteromorphs. Convenient for you, huh? What are you talking about? Shuji slid the remains of a few onions into a bowl, grabbing a few more. He shuffled his eyes again. Being able to copy quirks is incredibly strong, even if it's only emitters and transformations. PFT goes to show what you know. Monoma countered. More quirks than you'd think have mutations. I have to analyze quirks, understand them, To use my quirk correctly. 𝗬𝗪𝗢𝗁𝗧? Activated by the finger pads on her hands. I can't copy a mutation like that, so I can't copy zero gravity. Ishido's acid? Sure, but her skin's probably so different because it provides extra acid resistance, so my copy would be weaker. Fukadashi's quirk gives him that special head that lets him actually pop out massive speech bubbles. I'd probably only be able to manage small ones with my average-sized mouth. Bando's emitter is made more versatile by his mutated head. To be honest, I'm not sure what hole I'd shoot glue from if I copied his quirk. Get it? The six-armed boy frowned under his mask. That still leaves you a substantial portion of the class to copy from, though. Minoma rolled his eyes. But I can't stock quirks for a long time to keep an advantage, and I'll never be as proficient with their quirks during training as they will. He raised a whisk from where he'd been stirring cream and butter. Get it? I'm forever relegated to being a support hero. That's shiitake. Think outside the box, shroom. Komori mumbled, portioning chunks of brown mushroom into bowls. My quirk is mushroom. I'm gonna be a frontline idol hero anyway, even if everyone says I'm better for support. Your quirk is way better than mine, shroom. Don't say that. Shuji chastised. Minoma set his things down and turned to the brunette, her eyes hidden behind her heavy bangs. Honestly, it's a wonder the hero course's reputation isn't in tatters with downers like you every year. Aren't you going to be an idol hero? Won't reputation be your entire goal? I'm not obsessed with it, she replied, walking across the kitchen to grab the peeled garlic to dice, handing half to Shuji. And couldn't you copy the quirks of civilians, shroom? Minoma, sorting the cooking oil into portions on a number of saucepans, threw her a wayward glance. Oh, what? I'll arrive on the scene when a villain is wreaking havoc and go shouting to see who has the best quirk? Usually, it's the heroes who help the civilians, you know? If you had a large reputation as a limelight hero, you'd probably have citizens with strong quirks approach you at the scene though. Shuji countered, depositing the last of the onions from his board into a saucepan and setting the fire. Komori-san, time for the garlic. And if you had a sidekick with a flight quirk and one with an attacking quirk, you could just keep copying that and have them follow you around so you'd have a pre-stocked arsenal to begin with. And what if the quirks I've got stocked aren't the right ones for the job? Minoma snarked. Shuji shrugged. What does every other hero who only has one quirk do? Minoma had nothing to respond with, silent as the whistling of the kettle indicated it was time to prepare the stock as the golden scent of sizzling garlic and onion filled the kitchen and the other two started pouring in the mushrooms. Dinner's ready. Come and eat. Out of your room, Todoroki. Minoma, who'd been chosen to alert everyone around the dorms on the basis that he was good at annoying people, having been told it was due to his commanding presence, marched up and down throughout the dorms yelling. Midnight had offered him a metal pot and wooden spoon to use, but he'd rebuffed her, proclaiming he had far more dignity than that. Midnight, for her part, seemed disappointed. Todoroki peeked his head out of his room, which looked oddly Japanese-styled. Minoma couldn't judge, he had a penchant for old European himself. Minoma-ku. What's for dinner? Cold soba? He made a face. What? It's creamy mushroom pasta. The son of the number 2 hero shrugged. Close enough, he uttered, before slipping out the door and past a baffled Minoma. It is not. How dare you insult the dish I so generously made you? Do you not understand even an iota of the culinary arts? Todoroki ignored him so effectively you'd be forgiven for thinking he was mute, or deaf, or both. The two arrived in the dining room, Todoroki breaking off in the hopes of finding unoccupied seating in the cafeteria-like arrangements, though settled for a spot between Koda and Kodai as there were only 40 seats. Whilst seating was self-determined for the most part, there was one chair that had an obvious owner. The titanic teal-furred fox girl Josiai shuffled into the dining hall. Am I late? Where can I? Oh. Spotting her seat, she made her way to a massive chair twice the size of everyone else's, neighboring Manami and Shuji and across from Yaoyorozu, Jairu, and Mina, and sat with a soft oomph. Oh, I'd thought that was your seat, Josiai-sen. Yaoyorozu chatted, already having demolished half a bowl of mushroomy goodness. Luckily the cooks had been provided a sheet detailing who required extra calories, and placed her fork down. I hadn't considered that you'd need a special on. Why, it's nice. 𝗬𝗬𝗍𝗍 smiled, waving appreciatively at Yanagi who'd passed out her bowl, one that was fittingly twice the usual size. She reached down to go. Disappointedly, she pulled out her custom-made chopsticks and bent over the table, hunching awkwardly to reach the pasta. Table's too short. She chewed her meal slowly, enthusiasm finished. 𝗕𝗁𝗧𝗔𝗂𝘁, setting down his cutlery and crossing his 6 large arms. Couldn't you just sit up and lift it farther? Jiraiya watched as the teal blonde fiddled with her chopsticks, getting looks of sympathy from Manami, who sat in front of a smaller bowl than the rest, as well as Mina and Shuji. 𝗬𝗎𝗍 shook her head. The chopsticks are too big. It's already kinda hard to pick them up. Maybe we could get a desk or a chair or something? Mina mused out loud. Yaoyorozu stood up, pulling away a sleeve. I have an idea. Not to worry, 𝗬𝗎𝗍. Plastic dowels popped out of her arm, one after the other with pegs and holes placed along their length, before slipping 2 flat boards out from under her loose shirt, slotting them together and onto the dowels, arranging everything to form a rudimentary scaffold. Rudimentary yet light and collapsible. You can place your food. Stop this? She gave the heteromorph girl a bright, caring smile and handed the scaffold over. Placing her bowl on it, 𝗬𝗎𝗍 tested its weight before smiling and sitting properly upright, taking a bite of her dinner. It's great, Yaoyorozu. I honestly wish I had one of these before coming here. It would have been a lot easier. Thank you. The heiress blushed, Jiraiya judging her and smirking. Think you would make a pretty penny off of these. Light yet sturdy, Yaoyorozu's dinner stool. The 𝗬𝗎𝗎𝗧𝗔𝗍, Mina exclaimed, earning a look of ire from the ravenet. I don't name everything like that. You kinda do. Jiraiya admitted, patting her shoulder. She was just telling me earlier today her costume has a visor with info for all the stuff she creates called the 𝗎𝗎𝗢𝗍𝗍. Quite a mouthful. Shuji noted, others nodding around him. The creation girl blushed, hands on her lap. Call me Momo. Sure thing, Momo. Mina smiled and Jiraiya snorted. If you say so, Yamamoto. The heiress brightened up. A nickname? I'm honored. It's just a nickname, you dip. Jiraiya dryly commented, taking another bite of her pasta. Sides, it suits you. If you insist. Momo glanced at the punk girl hesitantly, before a mischievous grin flashed on her face and she gained a bit of confidence. Kyo-chan. Jiraiya blushed ferociously, turning away and hiding her face behind her jacks. Duh. Mina cooed, hands holding each other as she gazed theatrically into the sky. So cute. My heart. Can't think it. Flopping over and playing possum on her chair and receiving no attention from anyone, she upright herself. Oh, come on, what if I died for real? Maybe Kinoko put a death cap in my pasta, what then? Hey! The usually shy girl piped up from across the hall. I'd never ruin a shroomtastic dish like that. Why on earth would she try to kill you? Manami raised an eyebrow, poking at her pasta. Mina shoved a bite into her mouth. You know. 𝗬𝗏𝗍𝗪. Try again. The redhead prodded. Mina swallowed with a loud gulp. Secret club stuff? What's secret club? 𝗬𝗎𝗍𝗍 questioned. Manami rolled her eyes. Isn't the point of secret clubs to stay secret? It's still a secret club if nobody knows what the club does, Mina insisted. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow, now recovered from her blushing storm, and leveled Mina with an unimpressed look. You announced it to the entire class after the Quirk tests. But I never revealed what exactly us romantics gather under the cover of the witching hour to do. Mina retorted. And you'd have to torture me horribly to find out. Jiraiya rolled her eyes. I wouldn't bother torturing you to figure out that you gossip about romance like schoolgirls. Do you know how to make any torture instruments, Yamamoto-san? Manami wondered. The ravenet played idly with her ponytail. I've never studied how to create any. Shuji stared at her in disbelief. That's not a no. Well, just because I've never purposefully studied the methodology or structure doesn't mean I can't envision some. Momo began to ramble. Take thumbscrews. Theoretically, knowing the chemical composition of iron, I could simply envision it being created in the specific shape of a base, screw, and pressure point and make a perfectly functional pair right now. And I thought you were boring. Kamakiri remarked, having sat begrudgingly beside Mina. Manga, 𝗔𝗂𝗁𝗏, and Quirk nodded, their attention turned towards the ravenet for no reason in particular. That they had also paled considerably wasn't worth noting. Plus, it was nigh impossible to tell in Manga's case anyhow. But 𝗬𝗪𝗢 grumbled. Don't be an ass. Momo smiled placatingly. It's fine, Kyun. The food is very good, Shuji-kun. You and Komori-san and Monoma-kun made it, right? Quirk signed over his bowl, the white-haired boy nodding. To be honest, they're both better at cooking than me, I just did the prep. Ah, come on Shuji. A good chef shouldn't talk bad about his dishes. Manga encouraged, patting him on his broad back. I mean, I can't cook at all. And nobody could make all this for everyone here, so it's still like a third all you. The multi-armed boy smiled, a sharp grin hidden beneath his mask, emboldened by the praise. If you say so. Hey, did you see that 𝗵𝗃𝗏 interview? Kamakiri mentioned, the group turning to him. Holding up his phone, the mantis boy scrolled through a long article interspersed with pictures of 𝗵𝗃𝗏 as a child or in training, candid shots and immaculately framed photo ops alike. Atop it all was a black and white photo of the white-haired rabbit heroine staring wistfully out a window with a smirk. Ajui-san mentioned it's kick-ass. 𝗵𝗃𝗏's one of my favorites. What's it about? Quirk signed enthusiastically, getting a disbelieving look. Manga asked. Wouldn't he guessed? She's brash, but she's not particularly mean. The rock-faced boy replied. Also, she's super cool. I want to be like her, even if I don't have a physical quirk. 𝗔𝗂𝗁𝗏 chewed at his pasta thoughtfully. I get it. We all want to be brave, right? We're gonna be heroes. He raised his fork pointedly. It's kinda hard to imagine we're in UA now. The best hero school in the country. Yeah. Manami chimed in. Like, we're the best in the country in terms of first years who just got in, I guess? It's weird. Surely there's gotta be someone better out there. Who knows? Maybe Shiketsu's got a strong lineup. 𝗔𝗂𝗁𝗏 retorted. Think one guy I knew from my old school managed to get in there, tried for UA but didn't make the cut. Had purple hair like sticky balls. He was as short as you, actually, Ibe-san. The diminutive girl shrugged, somehow shrinking further into her seat. Not sure how I got into UA in the first place with a useless quirk. She mumbled bitterly. Kamakiri scoffed. I mean, I think you ain't shit, but the article says people used to say 𝗵𝗃𝗏 ain't shit either, so what do I know? Manami shrugged again. They what? Momo furrowed her brow confusedly. That doesn't make sense. Why would people disparage 𝗵𝗃𝗏's heroic potential? Surely they could see what was in front of their noses. She's almost cracked the top 10. Why, plus Yoroimusha's getting old and wash. Josie tilted her palm in a 𝗬𝗏𝗏 expression, unsure how to convey her feelings on the boxy man. Is getting washed up? Mina cheekily offered, grinning a shit-eating grin back up at the girl, who frowned. I guess. His gimmick did get old some time ago. I'm glad 𝗵𝗃𝗏 will give the top 10 some more heteromorph representation, even if it's limited. I like wash though. Manga protested. 𝗬𝗪𝗢 Kamakiri raised an eyebrow. That lame as good for nothing? Manga's speech bubble-shaped head spiked in anger. He saved my entire family from a fire, dipshit. Kamakiri gaped from the gaff, unresponding. Manga continued. I like the costume gimmick. He could be anyone under there. It gives me hope for more top 10 heroes with more severe mutations. Fair. Mina shrugged, picking at one of her horns through her fluffy pink hair. Famous heteromorph heroes are kinda rare? I dunno. There's still loads, just you don't see them. Shuji finished her thought for her. And even less so for mutations that aren't appealing for a TV. I like animals. Quirk signed, frowning. Everyone does, so everyone likes animal mutations. But I just look like a rock. I didn't make that many friends in high school. Kamakiri shook his head. Cute animals, maybe. Like Ajui-san, she looks like a frog. Maybe got some shit for it, but you think I got less with my freaky-ass bug head? Your head is not freaky. Momo protested, ponytail shaking as she glared at the world. 𝗬𝗪𝗢, beside her, merely smirked. Did you just call 𝗬𝗪𝗏 cute? The mantis boy scoffed. Jesus, that's your takeaway? Thought your thing was listening. Yeah, he's got a point though. I mean, my quirk doesn't even have a face. Manga added, pointing at his speech bubble. When I was real small I tried drawing a face on my face because everyone kept pointing it out. Course, it didn't move, so it was kinda worse. Also, I couldn't draw. That'll do it. 𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗲 nodded sagely. I trust you all don't need me to state the obvious with my face. Not sure how many people have me saved in their phones with the skull emoji for the contact name, but it's not zero. It's rough out here. Mina lamented, getting an annoyed head turn from Manga. What? You're fine, you've got an appealing mutation. The acid girl barked out a laugh, before grimacing. Oh yeah, appealing alright. Least you've never got a creep grabbing you on the subway. Or asking if touching the horn makes you come. Which, it fucking doesn't. It's a horn, dipshits. It's made of keratin. 𝗬𝗪𝗢 blushed, glancing away from the girl's horns. Finishing her rant, breathing heavily and blushing purple, she crossed her arms and slumped in her seat, Momo giving her a comforting side hug. That's terrible, Ashido-san. I can't believe that would happen. I'm certainly glad my family hires reputable chauffeurs. Mina huffed. Oh wow, you're rich, huh? Appreciate it, Momo. Call me Mina, by the way. Yeah, that sucks. It's minor, but people asked me the same about the ears too. 𝗬𝗪𝗢 blushed, twirling an earjack. Mina raised an eyebrow, before smirking deviously. Ah, someone's jealous. You want a Momo hug too? 𝗬𝗪𝗢 hug. Shuji commented. Piss off. 𝗬𝗪𝗢 responded to nobody in particular, not confirming nor denying whether she wanted a hug. Momo, presumably taking an interest in philanthropy, peeled off of Mina to give her a side hug as well, the violet brushing furiously at the close contact. Subconsciously, she leant into the taller girl's embrace, Momo smiling down upon her. Mina had to hold in a squeal of glee at the two. Adorable! Motioning Manami, she leaned over the table to pass a note. The redhead picked it up and unfolded the scrunched-up piece of paper. Operation Cupid is a go. Oh hey 𝗬𝗪𝗢-san? Manami casually wondered aloud. I think I heard from Kaminari-kun you play a few instruments? Know any small ones I'd be able to hold? 𝗬𝗪𝗢, breaking off from Momo's side with pink tinting her cheeks, ducked away and missed Mina, almost giving the same away with a broad, toothy grin. Don't most music stores have accommodations for certain quirk types? The ones back home had some. I didn't know you played music. Momo interrupted. I listen to some classical myself, but I've been meaning to experiment a little more in UA. Yeah. I love me some pop or funk, just anything with a beat really. Mina eagerly jumped in. Dancin' just sends my heart pumpin'. A good groove brings people together. Do you play any instruments? Manami turned to Momo, who daintily shook her head. Unfortunately not. I have been meaning to try playing the piano though. The acid girl's eyes gleamed at the valuable information. Oh, sure. Can I call you Kyo-chan? Mina asked teasingly, receiving a deadpan no. She frowned, before recovering her lost momentum. Shucks. Hey, wouldn't ya know it? I think I saw lududes of instruments when I walked past your room during the dinner call. I'm sure I saw a keyboard there. Momo turned intently to face 𝗬𝗪𝗢, whose eyes averted to catch Manami looking smug and Mina looking almost hungry. She turned back to the heiress sitting beside her. I have a keyboard. She replied simply. Momo's lips lifted at that, heart swelling with some fuzzy hopeful feeling, and 𝗬𝗪𝗢 knew the question that was coming but couldn't possibly turn the heiress down. I can't believe I'm such an idiot. First day crush? No way in hell. I shouldn't be this down bad, I need to pull myself together. I barely know her, she barely knows me. How could dash? Would it be too much trouble to ask you to tutor me once or twice, Kyo-chan? I promise I can repay you somehow. Her breath caught as every calm, collected, cool response died on her lips as her thoughts died watching the excited, joyful, oh so pretty smile on the heiress's gorgeous face. Good. I really can't say no, can I? Okay, damage control. Why yeah, that'd be cool. Don't repay me, that's what friends do, right? Momo's smile widened, eyes crinkling upwards as she gave 𝗬𝗪𝗢 a full frontal 𝗬𝗪𝗢 hug. Held in the heiress's warm embrace, 𝗬𝗪 could only blush and avoid looking anywhere. Momo, for her part, was absolutely delighted by the turn of events. A friend, oh a friend. On my first day. I'm so lucky to be friends with Kyo-chan. Maybe one day we could even be best friends? Oh stop it. You're getting ahead of yourself. Mina and Manami nodded at each other, a job well done, and vacated their seats to turn in their empty bowls. Midoriya had had a good day. No, a great day. Perhaps the best in his life, after when All Might offered his quirk. Perhaps even better than that. Hesitant to admit it to himself, he had to acknowledge, that day had so much baggage. The slime villain, Kacchan, the rooftop, coming home to mom, it was exhausting, and while he was so happy about the chance to see his crazy dream become a reality, the simple fact of the matter was that it was a bone-deep bad tired that drained him to his core that he felt as he flopped bonelessly onto his bed that night. Tonight, Midoriya felt a relaxing, energizing good tired as he reached for his doorknob. Curfew was soon, but what a first day. Friends, finally, friends. Kacchan was a childhood friend, but he wasn't a friend, even Midoriya could tell by now. He could tell since he was 5. Uraraka-san and Azu-san. Ida-kun and Pony-san too, probably. Shinsu-kun, Shuji-kun, Toga-kun, Komori-san, maybe? Still, so many people just around, milling about, treating him like an equal. In a way, it was better than the ball throw score or the grip test score. Having one for all. I'm the person again. No quirk. No quirk. No quirk, never. Doctor said so. He stepped off the little plastic chair wordlessly, Mommy still talking to the doctor, both turning to see him walk up to the adult-sized door. He put his hand on the doorknob. We ain't done today. Midoriya's hand froze on the doorknob as Bakugo approached from behind, hands crackling as he slammed a hand onto the door. Thankfully, he had the good sense not to scorch UA property on his first day, shutting down his mini explosions. Kacchan. What do you mean? It's almost curfew. Shut the fuck up. Shut up and listen. Why did you hide your shit fucking quirk from me? Say it. Why didn't you tell me? The doctor, he misdiagnosed. I was a stockpiler. I don't give a shit. Excuses. Excuses. Fucking explain. Tell me. Tell me. His breathing failed him, coming out in short gasps, mouth cold and dry, sweat on his palms, the regular kind, not nitroglycerin, which tainted the air in the hall with a creamy, sweet scent. Midoriya smacked his lips. Opening the door, he walked out into the waiting area and sat down numbly, fingers playing witty All Might's little twin strands of hair as he held back tears. No quirk. 5 minutes passed. The door to the doctor's office didn't open. Mom didn't come after him. Okay, Kacchan. You win. The truth is that Slam. Both whipped their heads around to see 𝗓𝗪 pushing her door open and exiting her room, Midoriya looking at her with wide and pleading eyes and Bakugo with a murderous glare she somehow returned with twice the fire. You have 1 second to explain why you're yelling outside my room. Bakugo rolled his eyes. Costing him precious second. I don't care. Piss off. 𝗓𝗪 interrupted. I could hear you through my soundproofing. Get lost or I'll call Midnight and she'll tie you to your bed or something. Midoriya gaped at the short-haired girl's nonchalance, which only seemed to incense Bakugo further. You want to go? Me and you, outside tomorrow night, how about that? 𝗓𝗪 scoffed. I'm not 𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗆. Should I speak your language? Don't want Midnight over on your first night? Bakugo sneered at her for 5 full seconds before growling violently flipping the two off as he stomped loudly back up the stairs, 𝗓𝗪 wincing at every step. Finally, the noises subsided as he slammed his door shut. She turned to Midoriya, who began to profusely apologize. I am so sorry. About the noise, and about him, and well, me, and Dude. She interjected. I don't care. He was being an ass. I dunno, use some tiger balm. I hear it keeps pests away. With a nod, she retreated back to her room. With nothing to say, Midoriya returned to his, flopping down on the All Might bedsheets to look at the posters on his ceiling. You really is different, huh? I can't wait for tomorrow.